This is Joseph Carpenter. Today is May 30th, 2025, and I am interviewing Mr. Omar Vela. This interview is taking place in University Hall on the campus of the University of Texas at Arlington. It is sponsored by the UTA Department of History and Geography and is part of the Texas Veterans Project. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed, sir.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Great. Where are you from originally, and what can you tell me about your growing up?
Okay. So I'm originally from Alamo, Texas. I was born in McAllen in 1976. Growing up my parents were Jesus Vela Jr., who passed away last year, and Idolina Vela, who's still down there living in the same home that I grew up with in Alamo, Texas. I have two brothers. My older brother is 3 years older than me, Ariel Jesus, and my younger brother's Iram Moswed, and he's 42, living down in Austin. Growing up, my parents were both educators, very proud educators, Hispanic family, second generation. On my mother's side, her father had been born in Rio Grande City, so he was already a native Texan. But my grandmother on my mother's side had came over from Mexico, and so they came over. My dad's side, they were both from Mexico, and so they came over, and so my parents were both met in high school. Were high school sweethearts. Big athletic family. Big into. My dad was very big into football, baseball. Good athlete. Him and his brothers. He was the youngest of 10, or the youngest of 9, and so the PSJ the high school was Far Samoa Alamo High. And he actually played linebacker, and they went to state championship twice in the 60s and lost to Corsicana and Dumas one year. Wow. So they went all the way up there. The only Valley team still to win, the only team in the Rio Grande Valley still to get to win a state championship in football is the Donna. And that was in 1960. And Donna still has the mascot, the Redskins, and they're not changing it for anybody.
Is that right?
Just to throw that out there.
Wow.
But it was a very good upbringing in a Hispanic family. As educators, we were very involved in obviously athletics, sports, education. Parents were not as they were good in discipline, but in Hispanic culture, if you screw up in a game, you don't just hear it. You kind of your relatives police you, if I should say that.
I see.
What are called tios and tia, your tios, which are your aunts and uncles, your cousins, your primos. And then my older brother was a real hard ass. He would crush me on everything if I did something, whether it being too slow or striking out 3 times or whatever.
Right.
But it was a very strong, very good upbringing, family-wise. Pushing myself into athletics in high school, in football and baseball. I was always a pretty hard worker in regards to athletics. My older brother had a little bit more gift, was more talented in baseball, and he probably could have played college, but he got his girlfriend at the time became his wife later, pregnant, so that had to stop everything there, and that actually just... I was kind of like very serious and kind of scared about the girlfriend things because you didn't, being in Hispanic culture, man, they are very big. Like, there was no such thing as an abortion there. You're going to have the baby and stuff like that. So I was a very, I didn't have what are called today helicopter parents. I mean, they were very supportive. They were very good at, pep talk, but it wasn't like all on you, like maybe today how parents are, where they're always on their kids, like where they're going, what they're doing, things like that. I already had a lot of self-discipline and kind of would just train a lot for sports, and because you were trying to do it was a very prove them wrong kind of thing, especially if your cousins were very good athletes and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I approached it. And also I was very good at school. With as I progressed later on in high school with the National Honor Society and Rotary and Kiwanis and stuff like that, I was more diverse than my older brother was, or actually, I don't want to say smarter. I just applied. I mean, school came easier to me. Applied it. I was very big into science and history. Those were my favorite subjects, and geography. And that just kind of took me through that. But it was a very good childhood bringing up, very supportive, good family, and all the way around. So,
Where did you go to college?
so when I finished high school, I had my choice of 3 schools. I looked at Baylor, SMU, and A&M. I did get accepted to all of those, and also University of Texas at Pan American, which is now the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, which is down in Edinburgh. It used to be the Bronx. So I took kind of trips. I felt, I felt just A&M was just a kind of like a too big, if you will. Baylor, I just really liked it. It just kind of took a campus visit. My cousin had gone there and was just about finishing up and going off to the Baylor Nursing School in Dallas. And I just really liked kind of the vibe of it. SMU was in Dallas, and I felt that was just a little too far. Maybe also just a little, because I had partial scholarships and things like that. So I felt like, man, it was pretty pricey. And I felt for a Baylor, private education, it had a very good, I guess it wasn't as what it is now lucrative-wise as far as the how much it cost to go to school.
Right.
So I decided to enroll there, and I started college in 1994, in August of '94.
And what was your major?
So I went in because I really looked up to my family doctor growing up, Dr. Barrera. I went in to do biology pre-med. So I was I'm glad I was able to pick my cousin's brain. So because when you registered back then for classes, you can make sure to choose the right professor to start because you're taking your general biology. And there was this professor in biology by the name of Baldridge that basically he was like the backbreaker of anybody coming into Baylor if they had any hopes and dreams.
The weed out
guy.
Right.
And a funny story is, I was living in Martin Hall. And this guy, he's now Colonel Malud. His first name is Jed Malud. He's actually an Arlington native. Went to Arlington Martin down the road here, same high school as Todd Van Poppel. And Jed comes in, and Baldridge just, after his second test, just tells him straight. This guy had no mercy. He just told him, give it up. Give it up. So, the entire time during the door, like he told us a story, we just would make fun of him the entire freshman year, like, give it up, Jed, give it up. Just. And he ended up being smart, changing his major to econ or business, so he had a better time there, and then wind up getting his, he went JAG. He went to law school. I think he went to law school at here at UT Arlington, if I'm not mistaken. Then Air Force still in, and he's a JAG officer in Colorado now. And I always make fun of him, like, I don't know how the hell you're an officer. I go, who the hell made you an officer? You're a clown. Because he was a funny guy. Right. He was that guy that would leave dumb things at your door or prank call you and leave messages on it. So, but it was good. That's what I decided to major in going in. So.
And what happened with that? Did you graduate with that major?
I did graduate bio pre-med. I did a victory lap. Interesting story here. I get in there. I'm taking all the classes. I'm doing pretty well. I had to rebump because I did pledge a fraternity with Pi Kappa Alpha in the spring. The fall. The spring. Now I waited a whole year, so I did fall 595. So had to bump up my GPA. There was a year where I kind of with the fraternity life, I lost track. I was just partying too much, drinking too much, playing rugby games there at Baylor, and I, was just made, it took actually, a light bulb kind of went off when I went back home, and my dad called me a fat ass. And he said, "You let yourself go, you're too fat, something just switched in my mind where I was like, what am I doing? I was always very big into the military as a patriot and real big into, and I don't know if I've ever said this, but a trigger for me into looking to join and doing it definitely was when I saw Saving Private Ryan.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And I mean, I probably was
Yeah,
probably
very intense movie.
Very intense movie, and for me, it was like the Rangers stood out.
Yes.
So I started to learn everything about Ranger history, and so when I got back in after Christmas for that a spring semester, I was supposed to be graduating, and I hunkered down. I stopped drinking. I am working out like just a madman. Before this low carb thing was popular, I was crushing low carb shit.
Right.
I mean, I would get up in the morning, drink water, go down to what was called Goebel Gym at the time on Baylor campus, do the stair climber for about 30 minutes, come back. I would park my truck in front of the library and have like chicken and vegetables parked in my truck. I didn't even care if I'd go to class, come back, and I would go to the library during lunch to study. Wasn't going to the lunchroom. Would work out with weights in the afternoon. My friends were like, I'm going to tell you that I was weighing 260 pounds. By the time April came around for Dia del Oso, where we had like a tug of war team for my fraternity and we're a bunch of meatheads, I was weighing, I lost. I mean, I came in at 180. I was weighing about 188, 190.
Man.
And I kept all my muscle and strength because of the high protein and just how it went. And people were just like, what? Like, obviously some friends were mad because I wasn't coming out and going to George's bar and drinking and stuff like that. But I cranked it out that semester and I actually failed a class. I was set to graduate and it was biomedical statistics. I thought I would like, the professor graded it on the curve. I had done like, worked my ass off, and I even went to go talk to him, and the guy says no, gave me an F. So,
wow.
I remember one of my closest friends who went to Baylor with me, who grew up together in the Rio Grande Valley, Ryan Swanson. He's like, well, what do you want to do now? Like, no, I'm not graduating. Let's just go play volleyball and have beer, I guess. And so I decided just to do that and enjoy that for a bit and just decompress. And so I decided in the summertime to stay up in Waco and continue to work. I started working construction for Waco Construction. I'm a shitty carpenter, by the way. I'm a horrible carpenter. My ex-wife always used to say that. I don't know how the hell you work construction. You're the horrible carpenter. I go, dude, I was just a big Mexican that could lift stuff. All right. I mean, I could lift they used to call me Chicano power because I used it as a workout. I mean, I would seriously in the morning. I didn't take any classes in the summer. I would wake up first thing in the morning, run the bear trail as fast as I could. And then the Mexican worker or the guys I worked with, they'd see me running this thing. They'd be like, man, you're flying, man. You're like, this guy's like, yeah, I was a very good runner. Then I would come back, work in pick up forms, pick up whatever I could, maybe hammer something, maybe saw something here and there, and just continued to work out, crush stuff. Started to do more mixed martial arts back then, more doing obstacle courses. And so for the fall, I took one class to graduate, only one. And I decided, okay, if I don't have to take biomedical statistics, what can I take? You could take sociological statistics. Sold, easy. So I just worked out. That's when I really looked at the branches of the military. And when I graduated, my mind was set on the Ranger Battalion because the reason why is like Air Force, I knew vaguely of what they had. Marines for me was just like, oh, rah, rah, rah. I mean, just, gunny highway, recon, whatever, just that's all you knew about that, But Army had a very interesting approach. When I took the ASVAB right after I graduated in the fall, in December of 1999, I'd take the MCAT. I did okay on it. Was I a rock star on it? No, but I probably should have taken it, But I was like, this ASVAB thing's easy. Okay, this...
Right.
I don't know. I mean, people have struggled with it, I guess, but the recruiter is like, man, you could do whatever you kind of want. I mean, do you want an SF contract, a Special Forces, or do you want a Ranger contract? And I go, well, I mean, what do you think? He's like, he put it very kind of like, one of the best stories I always like to say about it is this. He's like, well, let me give you the kind of differences between Special Forces and Ranger Battalion. Let's say there's a guy sitting on his couch or on his lazy boy reading a newspaper, and he hears a knock on the door. He gets up, checks the peephole, nothing there, opens the door, nothing there, closes it, goes back, sits down, the entire home blows up. That's special forces. It's more quiet, they move kind of like more quietly, more stealthy and stuff like that within indigenous, with indigenous
Right.
people. He says, now let's take the other scenario with a Ranger battalion. Let's say there is a knock on the door, guy gets up, and right when he checks the peephole, the entire door blows up in his face.
Right
That is
there.
Ranger battalion. They are a direct combat action unit. They are right at you. They are very versatile. They could do a lot. Their bread and butter was initially started with airfield seizures, but they have ever since Mogadishu and Somalia. You knew about that because I was in high school when that happened.
Right.
So that was like, okay, I'll do that. And he's like, but I have to warn you. And I know you talked about the college thing, but I know maybe I'm jumping into the military now. He said, like, I have to warn you though, like the contract here is this. Okay, he's like, okay, tough guy. Okay, look like you're in good shape. I mean, which I was in really good shape at that time. I mean, I was already running 13-minute 2 miles back, like I was ready to roll.
Wow. Yeah.
He's like, I can get you the Ranger contract easy. It's 11 X-ray. You will go to OSIT or one station unit training at Fort Benning at Sand Hill for your infantry. You'll become an infantryman. Right after that, you're going to go to airborne school immediately after. After you finish airborne school, you're going to go to what is called the Ranger Indoctrination Program. That's 3 weeks. If you pass RIP, which is called, you will get placed with one of the 3 Ranger battalions, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. If you fail, if they mess with you, if you quit, if you get injured, or if anything else happens, and those Ranger instructors who are on a whole different level that you're going to see after you finish basic training, unless that drill sergeant had been a Ranger, but a Ranger regiment, guy from the regiment, you'll get placed anywhere they need an infantryman. So
Wow,
you
I
could
see,
You can go to Fort Drum. They could put you in Korea, Rakkasan over there, 101st or whatever, 82nd, but they will put you anywhere they need a boot. So you'll go what is called worldwide. And I'm just like, got it. I got it. I said, okay. So yeah, I mean that,
Were you involved in any sports? I'm going to go back to college for just a second because I want to get this clarified. Did you participate, other than rugby, which you mentioned, did you participate in any other sports?
No, just the intramural stuff. And I was really big in the fraternity. We were really big. Like I said, my fraternity had a bunch of shit kickers, cowboys, and beer drinkers, and meatheads.
Right.
I mean, and she'll tell you that.
Right.
I don't know. That's maybe why she liked us so much. But anyway, we were really big in this tug of war thing. So we would tug of war, and I remember it was a 6-on-6, and I remember we won one year, we lost to the football team one year, and then actually that year that I lost all that weight, we were upset by another fraternity. It was nuts. We were actually, I couldn't believe we were beat by them, but they beat us. So that's the only thing I did there. That rugby was about a year, maybe I had to stop that because that, like I said, you're just drinking too much.
Yeah.
You're just party. You can't you have like pre-med is something that and I heard this so much at Baylor, every night there was something going on. It was either Monday, it was Monday Night Football, or Tuesday it was nickel drafts at Continental or at the Continental Cowboy, or Wednesday it was Buzzard Billy's, and guys would be like, you could. Thursday was George's, Friday was whatever, Saturday whatever. They would be like, I got a cellular physiology quiz. I can't study. I've at Thursdays, But you could study in the morning. I'm like, no, I can't study in the morning and know everything about the Krebs cycle or moles or ATP and ADP and what's coming in and all this kind of stuff. No, you have to know the system. It just but that's what I played there.
So did you have any family members that were in the military? Anybody who influenced you in that respect?
My uncle Jesse, his wife, it was my mother's sister. Him and my dad grew up, his name's Jesse Willingham. They grew up together in Pharr, Texas. Played football together. He was a really good athlete too. He kind of, he always would make stories like my dad would always say he was a wild man, and then Uncle Jesse would say my dad was the wild man. I'm like, so he decided to not take a chance with the draft. He had said, you know what, I'm going to go. He enlisted. He was an infantry guy. And so he got out of the military as a staff sergeant. He finished up his career. He was an I think his last station was at Benning up at Henry Caro or I'm sorry, not at one of the NCO academies there.
Okay.
So back then. So he was a big influence. My uncle Eddie Garza, cousin to my mother, Marine, Vietnam vet. My dad's brother Theo Emilio was Army. Theo Beto was Korea. So we had a long history of service in the family.
Yeah. But you thought Saving Private Ryan was that kind of
I don't know why
kind of pushed you over the edge or whatever?
It really
maybe?
did. I mean, it just kind of was like, it was one. It was always. The service thing was always there for some reason. That just really pushed it. And then you start reading all the books about like different, Colonel Colonel Darby, and then even the knuckleheads like Dick Marcinko. No offense, rest in peace, Dick, to Dick Marcinko, the Road Warrior. Dick,
right.
If you're not familiar, I think you're probably familiar who Dick Marcinko was. He was a Navy SEAL who.
Yes.
Looking back at his book, he really embellished a lot of it. But I feel kind of bad sometimes growing up that I didn't know. My high school was playing. A new high school was assembled in McAllen, Texas, called Rowe. It was Colonel Nicky Rowe High School, and it's still there.
Yes.
And so we knew we had a VFW for Rowe. We knew we had Rowe Boulevard in McAllen, and the only thing I ever knew about Rowe was that he was a McAllen native, from McAllen, Texas, went to West Point, was a Green Beret, was captured, but then escaped, and later killed in the Philippines. That's the only thing he knew. Because the other Valley hero was Freddie Gonzalez, who was a Marine that jumped on a grenade to save his guys from Edinburgh. And then up the road, of course, was Roy Benavides.
Yes, of course.
So I kind of felt bad that I didn't really learn more about Roe until I was in Ranger Bat, and then when I was, when I went to SEER, level C, then you really know everything about him. And then after reading 5 Years to Freedom, his book that he wrote, which is a very good book, and then finding out how everything happened. Then when I, my other career after the Ranger Battalion, when I was doing personal recovery, you learn even more. So
talk a little bit about training. So you joined the Army. What year did you join?
It was March 2000.
Okay. And so you join, go to boot camp. How was that for you?
So, there was only one time I thought, what the hell did I get myself into, is when I had to do KP or kitchen patrol once. And then sometimes, obviously I'd done college. So you had other guys in there that were like younger. And I remember the first day I got there late at 30th AG, which is 30th Adjutant. So before you go I went to Delta 258, 2nd Platoon in Sand Hill. You have to go to 30th AG, which is where you get all your gear and stuff. And I got there a little late because I remember I had to drive, we flew out of San Antonio of course, the military's paying for this. So you're going from San Antonio to Nashville, then into Columbus, Georgia. Get there late, get my stuff. They give you a chow. And there's a bunk open. And I step on there was a guy there, and I kind of say, hey man, this bunk takes out. He's like, no man, all you. So we kind of gravitated together the entire time and come to be, we were in the same platoon. Sure. Bryce Ali, he's been a close friend of mine. For some reason, this guy still only communicates on Signal app. He just sends texts, and then the texts that he sends on Signal app are just shit from basic. We'll talk about basic training. Is just the stuff from basic training? He'll bring up a knucklehead that went AWOL. He'll bring up this guy. He'll bring up this guy. And he was like, he'll always say like, God bless, Coach. He calls me Coach because I was very big into coaching, like my dad, and like how I was how I would break things down. I was very, very methodical, like a coach. And he'd be like, "Man, Coach, we had a bunch of shitbags there." I'm like, because on the basic training side, you had all those that were going to Ranger, but they had Ranger contracts, and you had the Airbornes, and you had the legs. And for those that are not familiar, I'll break it. The legs are your mechanized infantry. That means they're not going to go to airborne school. They're just there. So basic training though was comical. I mean, PT wise, and I learned to get the only thing I learned to do. I was like, oh man, this rucking thing is okay. The feet are going to get good and on that. and you had a smaller ruck, but then it gets bigger as you get older, as you get to the battalions. But it was amusing. I thought it was fun. The drill sergeants were cartoon characters for me. I mean,
That's an interesting outlook. That you recognized early on then that they were playing a role.
they were playing a role. It was so to
That
this
it wasn't
day.
these real guys, these early Army types.
No, they were
yeah.
they were hardcore. Some
Yeah.
of it was infantry school. I mean, I don't know what they could do now, but they were. Obviously, later on, as I progressed through the ranks and to get to staff sergeant, I was just like, well, I guess being a drill sergeant's kind of the land of misfit toys, where they got no place else. Like the whole like the Richard Gere movie, I got no place else to go. I mean, you're kind of like, why are these guys here again? I mean, why? I mean, I can understand if they're really, it's like any training academy when you go that people like, you have it's a land of, like I call it the land of misfit toys, because you have those that are just got no place else to be, and then some that are really believe in the cause to train guys up.
That's right.
I did have one that had been a third Ranger Battalion guy who had been a sniper, and he was really good, Sergeant Davis. Drill Sergeant Carroll was hilarious. I mean, he was a former Panama vet who was out of control.
Why did you, excuse me for interrupting, but why did you decide to enlist rather than go into OCS?
Because I wanted to go I wanted to be in Ranger Battalion. Because OCS, the deal with OCS would be this: if you did, let's say you went infantry school, airborne, decided to go to officer candidate school down there, then you'd have to be a PL or with a conventional infantry unit. Then my thing is, I wanted to get to battalion. I want to go to Ranger school.
Okay. That was the most direct route to what you wanted to do.
That was the direct route. You're going right into battalion.
Right.
I mean, and obviously your infantry officers that get there, or your platoon leaders that get there, before they get to Ranger Battalion, they have to already have had platoon leader time or company commander time in other infantry units, whether it be obviously preferably airborne, whether it come from Alaska, which is I think before Richardson, or over at Bragg, or at Campbell or Drum or something. They have to already have that, and then they're vetted coming in. So you're competing the best. I mean, our officers for the most part were very shit hot. It was very hard. If we ever had a bad officer, I mean, I will tell you about it. I'm not going to give a name, but the problem got solved very quickly.
Yeah.
Because the NCOs ran the show, or the NCO. We had very good officers, but the non-commissioned officers, first sergeants, in the Ranger Battalion were really the heart, were the backbone.
Right.
So that break the story down. That's why I did the enlisted route.
That makes sense. So back to your training. So boot camp, it wasn't hard. You recognized, as you said fairly early on, that these guys are playing a role that they're not really like that. They're just
the hardest thing about boot camp was, I mean, I was with platoon guide for the entire time, and then finally I was fired because they fired my ass for something. Maybe a floor wasn't buffed. I don't remember, but I was like, oh, thank God, I could be with just the gen pop now, or general population.
Okay,
I was like, this is great. Finally. Then he put me back on there to the last bit. I'm like, oh, great. I just fired my ass.
Why did they put you into a platoon leader position?
Because I came in as specialist Vela because I had college. I was so anyone that had a college degree, you're coming in as that was another thing. I mean, I did not break that down, but when I enlisted, I just was like, rah, 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 I want to, be a Ranger. I got a signing bonus. I got a loan repayment program. So all my stuff from Baylor was paid for, which was great. My dad loved that. Even though they did not want me to join the military, they were not very in favor of that.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Oh, they just felt, from what they'd seen with family, with Vietnam, they were the 60s people that they felt that they were not treated properly. They felt that it was not. They felt it wouldn't open any doors. They felt to continue on with the pre-med path, or maybe do pharmaceutical sale, be a farmer. I'm like, I'm not a freaking salesman. What the hell am I going to sell? But anyway, they wanted to do pharmaceutical sales rep, build your MCAT up, try and go to
Yes.
And I'm like, I go, nah, this is what I want to try and do, and I want to, this is a goal for me. This is a challenge. This is something I believe in, and this is something I want to go for. I mean, I need something like this. I wanted it, and it wasn't. I wanted something. I wanted to see what it felt, what it was like to be in that unit.
Right.
To go that route.
So how long was boot camp for you?
I believe it's about, so we started in March, and then finished in July. So March, April.
Okay.
So in July, because then right after that we had to wait about a couple of weeks there, do some details to wait for an airborne airborne
see.
school to start.
So you go to airborne training immediately after boot camp.
Immediately after boot camp, you go to airborne school. So we went right into airborne school. That was 3 weeks, not very difficult at all. The only thing you knocked on wood about was not getting injured or anything like that on a jump. Honestly, the first the jumps weren't bad. It's tower week and when they're doing the whole the thing that it goes back and forth, and then you fall and you have to do a dynamic POLF, which as a jump master, I was a jump master later on a Ranger battalion. So a dynamic POLF is when you land, you want your points of contact. You want balls of the feet, calf, buttocks, pull-up muscle. So you want these points of contact when you land. It has to be it's like a magical, like, oh, the toes touch, the calves touch, the thigh, your ass, the pull-up muscle. And of course, the military, it's always but no, you just land, bang, bang, bang. Just like it does land like like a pack of shit. So it's just so it was. Airborne school was not tough. So you finished airborne school, and then the fun started. Still remember this day. Still remember. We all graduate, get the wings on, we're in our uniforms. I still remember the Sergeant Airborne saying to a lot of saying after they finished up, like, those of you that are going to 75th or going to RIP, the Ranger Indoctrination Program, you fall out, you stand right here, you stand with your civilian bag, your duffel bag, and you wait. The rest of you, you don't have to leave, but you can't stay here. If you want to see if you want to witness what's about to happen to these fine gentlemen over here, you can mosey on out to the corner of the street here or to the side of the billets to see what's about to happen.
Wow. Really?
And so back then we had the black berets. So I still remember this day. There's a 5-ton that comes, and it's Sergeant First Class Washburn, who was a former second back guy. And he's like, which one of you, derogatory comments, like they come in, berets just shaped, starched uniform, jump wings, combat infantry. Some had combat infantry badge. Some had the expert infantry badge on their tabs, obviously. And it was kind of like we just start just beating our face, pushing on our backs, on our bellies. Look at this group of shit.
Wow.
They grow up. They get up like, who's your senior ranking officer here? And so me and another guy were E4s. And like, you two, huh? Why are you two E4s? Or why are you all special children, like specialists? I'm like, as we have college sergeant, drill. One guy called him a drill sergeant, and he immediately says, "Do I have a shit brown hat on my head?" And the guy was like, he's like, well, since you have one button undone on your BDU top, he put me in charge. You're in charge. Have all these guys put their civilian bag on that 5-ton. Do it. They have 1 minute. Ready, go. Too slow, get out. So all the civilian bags went on this 5-ton. Then we had to put our D bags on our back, and then we proceed to what is called a force march. A force march is this: you have to stay right behind the man behind you. Have you ever heard of the term force march? Yeah. Okay. Sure. So you have to stay what is called nut to butt.
Right.
Meaning you have to be within arm's reach of the guy's duffel bag. If you fall back out or fall out of it, or you do yo-yo, so they will pull you out and smoke you even more and crush you. So we walk all the way up to the 75th Ranger Regiment and continue to smoke some more. This was the battalion. The regiment was the old billets. This is old school still Somalia. These billets were not the most, hospitable. And then we were released for the weekend. And I'm going to count this as a blessing as well, because on my last parachute jump, I had a bad issue with stingers or burners in high school. That means when your neck gets pinched and you lose kind of feeling in your arm.
Wow. Yeah.
And I learned to deal with it. But on my last parachute jump, boom, I had a burner. So I felt like my push-ups were not going to be the darndest on the PT test. So come to find out, we get put on our billets, get the weekend off, but there was a cutoff on how many people could go through RIP. And me and the guys that had just come in from airborne school, a lot of us were not able to go into that RIP class. So it was 3 weeks. And so we did details for about a week. And then the Sergeant Washburn guy, he's like, if you guys want, you could take what is called leave. You have hours to take what is called a leave period. Like you sign off on leave. And so I was like, hell, I'll take leave. So we all took leave, and I took a bus ride. I didn't have a vehicle.
Right.
I took a bus ride all the way from Fort Benning, Columbus, to the Rio Grande Valley, went home, had some time, took some time to recuperate, work out, bought a new truck, another Silverado, or a Silverado, because I left my old one behind, and then went back, and then we started RIP, and if you want to touch on that, we can.
So you had a little time to recover then.
It was good. I'm glad I was able to, because having a burner, you lose the feeling in your arm, and it's kind of a weakness for about a few days, maybe a week. So you're not going to be as strong as you want. So I really thought that was going to affect the pull-up test,
right,
and possibly the combat water survival test, because the Ranger Battalion does a different type of physical fitness test. So I was glad I had that week, because I did recuperated. I still just worked out and went from there.
So let's talk about the Ranger Indoctrination Program. You finally get there.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
It is pretty much attrition. It is. I am very proud. Just to go on a little small tangent. I am very proud. It's 2025 now, on what the current status of the 75th, and that gets me watery-eyed.
Sure.
What they have done, and how they train now, and the capabilities, lethality, the lethal, agile. The dog, they have it's so compared to what I went through. And now these guys go through what's called a Ranger Assessment Selection Program that lasts, like, I believe it used to be 6 weeks, now it's even longer. So it is like a full-blown training path to when they get to battalion, you're not just like lambs that are coming to the slaughter.
Right.
Basically, so going back to RIP, back then it was attrition. It starts from the beginning, starting with your physical fitness test, to your combat water survival test, to the 5-mile run, which you had to do in under 40 minutes. Then they take you, like, it's a lot of mind games. Most of the mind games happen at a place called Cole Range.
Okay.
Cole Range is where you go to do your land navigation and have a little fun, or I like to call little smoky treats, fun games out there. You're going to have fun games out there, because they're going to really test you and go at you. Not only are you doing the land navigation, but you will do one of your ruck marches out there. Okay. And I remember I told you that the rucks that you got in basic training were these little baby things like that. Now you're getting like a tick. I mean, it's like a big thing on your back. And out there, we did all night. We did land navigation all night. The next night, we have our first ruck march, and we think, okay, it's only 6 miles. It's only 6 miles. Well, kind of find out it was a 6 mile. There's just not proof, but we believe that the Ranger instructors, the cadre, had fluffed their rucks up with just like comfortable gear that wasn't very heavy compared to ours.
I see.
And they freaking took off like bats out of hell.
Oh.
I mean, you had already been walking all night, and we are just... And so only the strong stay in line. The rest of them, they were picking them off like flies. On the 5-ton, on the 5-ton, on the 5-ton, on the 5-ton. So
you're done then?
Well, you're not done.
Okay.
Here's the mind games. We turn around, we come back. they don't really give us a attaboy good speech. They just say, well, I guess you're the only one strong enough to finish that little march that we just did. The rest of you over here, because we started with 88 guys at RIP. We started with 88. Then you keep weeding out as you go from the PT test. And now we're all, have the guys at Cold Range. The guys that got put on the truck, they start just saying, if you can't do this, you won't pass battalion, blah, blah, blah. And then they proceeded to start to have a little fun with us, carrying the log of woe, this big log where you have to work as a team, stuff like that.
Yeah, how many of you are carrying this log?
The ones that had passed the ruck march were the ones carrying it. So it was only about, it was a few of us. It was like 20 some of us. And then you had maybe about 30, so after everything was sent in, it was like 30 some over there that they had pulled a good 20 to 30 some out of that ruck march.
Man.
And they're just saying like, look at those guys over there. You don't want to join them. Look, you just say it's not for you. We'll take you right back to your barracks. You'll have a hot bath. You'll have chow. It'll be all like this. You guys don't want to do this. You really don't want to do this. I mean, look at those guys. I mean, why are they wanting to do this and stuff like that? And so they all went back. And so we stay out there. And me and my buddy that I brought up, Bryce is in the same RIP class as me, Bryce Ali. And I don't know what time it is. We still have this log. And all of us were infantry guys except for two. There was one that was a forward observer who was going to go be an FO. And then the other one was the 92 Yankee, which was a supply guy.
That's interesting.
His name was, poor guy. I'm going to say his name. I don't know whatever happened to him, but Chi. And our nickname for him was High Speed Chi because he always had a camouflage. He thought he was really high speed. So we're it's in the darkness. We got these logs, and I think at one point Chi moves off to the side, and you hear this kind of sniveling like that, and one of the RIs, the Ranger Sergeant, is like, Chi, is that you? Yes, Sarge. He's like, Chi, are you fucking crying?
Oh my God.
Yes, sir. Chi, why are you crying? Because I'm weak, Sergeant.
Oh my God.
Wow. And they were look.
Poor guy.
Honestly, Ranger Battalion needs we need supply guys too. I mean, we gotta have that.
Right.
So were they taking care of Chi? Yeah, Chi did not finish the road march. And I just remember them saying, I'm sick of your shit, Chi. Get the hell out of here. Go off to the side. Get over there, Chi. You're done. You're done. Get the hell out of here. I'm freaking crying. What the? So the truck took Chi back.
So how did you...
Not laugh?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's pretty... Right now, it's funny. But you're going through it.
We're like, oh,
man.
shit. I was like, oh, shit, man. She's lost it. I was like, yeah. So we finished the log, and then we get, obviously we go back. And then we had some good guys. There's actually another friend of mine named Spencer Corson, who runs a security company, has a podcast. He's on Instagram. You can look him up. Does a lot of he wrote a book called The Safety Trap about, because he went into military, after military was a marshal, did protective services, and does a lot of stuff now.
Absolutely.
So we came back, and we're trucking along. We're in the final phases. The only thing we'll have to do is a 12-mile boot march. So we knock out a 12-mile boot march, and then they do a surprise health and welfare check on our barracks. And I remember Spencer had a can of dip, and they kicked him out for that. So that's why I said what my recruiter said. If they find anything, that's the thing. They nailed two guys with contraband, which we couldn't have Copenhagen or dip during that. So we lose Spencer. He would have been a great asset. Then obviously he's done great things after the fact. So we finish up. And there was one guy that just kind of snuck through the crevice. This guy, I won't bring up his name, but I still remember, we're finishing up and doing our fast rope training. And the poor guy, you learn how to climb ropes, you know how to hang on ropes, things like that. He wasn't very good at rope climbing. And this is where I also knew that these instructors, I mean, you already knew these instructors. There had been Somali guys that had been in Somalia.
Right.
These guys were on a different level. They made basic training look like they were nuts.
Right.
They were certifiable. I mean, and for a reason. I just remember them having us line up in parade rest and sing. This guy couldn't hang on a rope to save his life. And he's like, I can't hold it, Sergeant. And they're like, if you're going to fall, it is God's will that you fall and break your leg because they want to weed you out of the battalion. Do you need some motivation, Private? Guys, line up. Parade rest. And I want you to start singing this song. It's a circus. Let's see if he falls, guys. Let's see if he falls. And we're just like,
oh my gosh.
He didn't fall, but I still remember that sergeant. I'm not gonna. But he was. He became a chaplain later, and he's done great things.
Is that right?
This sergeant, yeah, he was a monster. Won Best Ranger twice. Was in Somalia.
Yeah.
Actually had a good role in the movie.
Really?
As far as when on the convoy, giving a motivational talk.
Talking to Black Hawk Down.
Yeah. So and but he never cursed. Never.
Really?
He was really. He would just say things like, it's God's will that you fall. I mean, because we weed the weak out. I don't want you guys here. I mean, you're weak. So
Oh my gosh.
that was. But ultimately, we finished off with a friendly soccer game against. And I can't play soccer for shit against the cadre where they're just beating the shit out of us. We had a really good guy named Clemens who was really good, played college soccer, and I to slow him down, one guy tackled him and put him in an arm bar. Then we don our black berets, and we have a weekend to report. Then we have to first go to Fort Stewart for in-processing, and Fort Stewart is right outside of Savannah, Georgia. Well, anyway, just to go back,
No, go ahead.
when we're finishing up, they're finishing up. Only 22 I believe it was only 22 of us had finished. They're like, okay, all you guys are going to 1st Ranger Battalion in Savannah, Georgia, and we're like, yes. Because Savannah was where everyone wanted to be, because it was near, it was a beach, it was a city.
Oh, I see.
That's where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Savannah.
Right.
The forward observer guy, they're like, they needed a forward observer in 2nd Ranger Battalion, so you go in Fort Lewis. And so he goes out there, and they look at this one guy, they're like, are you infantry? They're like, oh, yes, Sergeant. He's like, well, you stay here at 3rd Bat. He looked at us, we looked at him, so he had a poor guy to stay at Fort Benning because so the way the 75th is broken down is headquarters, the 70th Ranger Regiment is located in Fort Benning.
Okay.
3rd Ranger Battalion, which was started up in I believe 1983 or 84. Hopefully I don't get my ass kicked for that one, but because it came after 1st and 2nd Bat, I believe 83, was there in Fort Benning as well. While 2nd Ranger Battalion was at Fort Lewis, Washington.
I see. Okay.
Outside of SeaTac area, Seattle, Tacoma. While 1st Bat was, down in Savannah. So
you got what you wanted out of that.
I didn't know what I was going to get. Obviously, we were just happy to finish, but we all got me and Bryce, Chip Whittemore.
So this is your buddy from boot camp.
Boot camp, yeah.
You and he made it all the way through.
Yeah, me
together.
and Bryce made it too. So, yeah, we got 1st Bat, then we got me and him and Chip. We all got. So when you get in processed, you got to go to Fort Stewart first, because you're kind of just chilling in purgatory there for a bit until it's time to report to 1st Ranger Battalion.
I see. Let me ask you real quick. Getting your Ranger tab.
That came later.
Oh, it comes later.
You got your scroll there. You're just getting your scroll.
Okay. Go ahead then.
Yeah, you just got your scroll and your beret. And then you got the lecture. The hard part is not passing this the hard part is staying in battalion. Because he told us straight up, he's like, honestly, the Ranger instructor said, or our cadre guy said, it's tough to say how many of y'all will make the rank of staff sergeant. It's tough to say how many of y'all will get your Ranger tab. It's hard to say who will.
So that comes after you've been in battalion for a period of time.
Until you are deemed worthy. Until it's time.
Is that so?
Until your team leader until you are deemed like, okay.
How long can that take?
Oh, it depends on how squared away you are. My good friend Jonas Polson, Jonas went really quick after 4 months, but then he came back because he recycled, and then ultimately we went to Ranger School together. Or like Reedy was really squared away. He went quick. So I got to battalion, ironically, since we had that time off period, I didn't get into battalion until October of 2000. So I got to Ranger Bat in October 2000 and got assigned to Alpha Company, 1st Platoon. Okay. Bryce got 2nd Platoon. Chip went to, Whittemore went to the AT section. The other guys went other places. Mm-hmm. And yeah, then we just got smoked right when we got there, or just as regards like to getting crushed on Ranger history, just like that. It was because you're the new guy, you're the FNGs. Right, now let's test your. The big thing for me is Pete. If you're good at physical training, PT, that's half the battle. But my squad leader, who is a badass and still with the unit now to this day, man, he found your weaknesses, whether you needed to be better at obstacle courses or swimming or things like that to be a better well-rounded, or rucking, better well-rounded Ranger going from there. So what happens when you first get to Ranger Battalion, it is, now, I told you now that they have what is called a Ranger Assessment Selection Program, where they're teaching you everything now before you go in. There, it's baptism by fire. I mean, it is like, here's a fire hose. Right. I'm pouring it in your mouth. Open up wide, punk. And so you're learning. You're learning all your battle. All your battle drills, all your close quarter battles, CQB, reaction to contact, breaking contact, platoon attacks, everything that goes with it. Your fast roping, your jump rope. Or you're jumping out. You're doing fixed wing. You're learning everything that comes with that as quickly and as best as you can, and you're going to mess up. If you don't mess up, you're doing something wrong. That's for damn sure. And and you're also getting a lot of tough love. There's a method, in the words of my good friend Tony Maselli, who's still working for an contract agency and we were in that History Channel documentary together, Live to Tell. There's a method behind the madness. There definitely is a method behind it, and to push you to go past what you're capable of, and to test you as far as your mental and where you're at. So
how long did it take you then to get your Ranger tab?
So we had a block leave period, and I remember going back home. Actually, I did the rounds. Went to Dallas, saw Big Mark, got drunk. Went to Waco, saw friends, got drunk. Went to see my little brother in Austin, got drunk. And then went to Tacoma, spent some time there, went back. So I get back from leave period, and they came at you like blindsided, like, you ready to take your PT test or what, to go to Ranger School? And I'm like, ready. I'm ready. And sure enough, I was like, yeah, because everything, like, so you did your PT test, you had a Ranger knowledge, you had to do your water survival test, then you do a ruck, everything, and the guys that went, so then we went to you don't go to Ranger School first, though. You have to go to what is called the 75th Ranger Regiment. You have to go back to it's not called RIP, it's called ROPE. Ranger Orientation, not rope, but it's called pre-Ranger.
Okay.
It's called the pre-Ranger. So the 70th Ranger Regiment had what was called pre-Ranger. So that's about 3 weeks to make sure you're ready to go. Mm-hmm. Well, we thought we get there, gentlemen's course, they're just making sure we're ready to go. No, they kick our, I'm like, what the, they're just kicking our ass. Like, seriously kicking our ass.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you now, then they whipped the shit out of us. And somebody wrote it to critique about a certain sergeant that was there, that it was, and I think he was an officer, that he was unprofessional, that he cussed too much. And my God, did we get just
all of you
got obliterated.
All of you did.
Obliterated.
Wow.
I remember, I still remember him just keeping us up all night. Because the first sergeant First Sergeant Kohler, who they nicknamed Kohler Claws because he was so nice. He did not allow the next RIP pre-ranger class to him to work with it, so he took it out on us like crazy, just keeping us up all night. You know, saying, "You think I'm a professional? You think I cuss too much? Well, fuck you guys."
Oh my gosh,
It was
really?
awesome. So we get just hammered, and then we get another pleasant surprise that we had to repeat or recycle the pre-ranger course to push back our ranger school date. And I'm like, so we go back to Savannah. I'm dating my ex-wife at the time, and I don't even get close to the barracks because my squad leader was like, "What the fuck, Cap?" You know, just kind of like, "What the hell did you all do over there?" I'm like, "Oh, Sergeant." You know, it's like, you know, he's like, "I seriously, if you do not, mess this up." So we have to repeat pre-ranger. So me, Totten Lancaster, Sorrenti, Alex Argumento, the champ, and then we get a fresh pre-ranger group, and then now I got Jonas in there. Jonas is going back to ranger school now. Jonas, my good friend Jonas Polson is in there. Goebel, who went on going to West Point. So that was a good class. So we crushed that. We're fine, and then you go to the ranger school, and you do so you had to do pre-ranger first, then you report to ranger school, and you have what is called a 0 week, and then go through the school. You have your 3 phases. First phase and bedding phase. So we started that in around, it was August of 2001, which obviously you know what's going to happen in September.
What's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when 9/11 happened, we were right about to march to Camp Rogers, out there to do our field problems for the first phase of the Ranger School. Mm-hmm. And they notified us what had just happened. It was it was obviously a shock, and everyone was just like ready to get their asses back to battalion and go to war. You know,
right.
We were allowed to call back to our platoon stores to our leaders, and I called my squad leader, and basically he very bluntly just put it like, if you try and come back here without your ranger tab, I will skull fuck you and send you to Korea. You know, so basically rip out your eyes, you know, and all.
Right.
He's like, he kind of gave me a don't worry, finish what you got to do. Mm-hmm. They didn't give a guarantee they would be there, but just said, but kind of like a confident, like, I think we're going to be okay for right now. Mm-hmm. So we march into the Camp Rogers, you know, we do our Darby Queen obstacle course. And hopefully, I'm not mixing. I know it's Camp Merrill, Camp Rogers, so it's, come on, man, it's been over 25 years. Right. At least I can still remember my Ranger School class 1101. So it can eat that. So I mean, I could recite that. So when I see someone with a Ranger tab, like, "Hey, what Ranger School class were you?" "Oh, I don't remember. It's been so long." Bullshit. 1101. So we get there, and a lot of us regiment battalion guys all kind of are all hanging out, and just then, the next day. Anybody who had been with the 75th Ranger Regiment, because we had 2 guys that were assigned to 75th, they were pulled out of the Ranger School, and so were some 3rd Ranger Battalion guys. So they were pulled out, and they went back to their units, and obviously they deployed to Afghanistan in September for objective right. All that happened. We continued on with Ranger School. From there, went to mountain phase to the Florida phase. Me, Jonas, Totten Lancaster, Argumento, Sereni, all went straight through. No recycles this time. We crushed it through there. Landed back in, parachuted back into Benning, got our tabs, got our stuff. Was able to go back back to Savannah,
Let me hit the chronology real quick. So you joined up 2000.
March 2000, yep.
And now we're what? October?
We are in November of 2001.
Okay. Wow.
All of that happened. Now, we never knew that.
All of that's training.
Yeah, 9/11 changed, really everything. You go into it thinking like, you're going to do a 4-year contract, get your Ranger tab, be a Ranger, become a sergeant, and just maybe just ETS, you know, or
Right.
leave the service, and then everything just changed after
Right.
after that.
So what happened to you after that? So you get your Ranger tab. Now that's a big deal.
Get it? Big deal, but it's expected. And I'm going to tell you this. Why?
Okay.
Get back to Savannah. Immediately I go to, so you can't go on to post to get your uniform sewn that quickly. Got to go to outside source. Down there on Abercorn Street, there was this place called Kim's. The nickname for it was Kami Kim's, Korean sewing place. So we called it Kami Kim's. So the lady, you would go, you say, you know, hey, you know, for the Ranger Battalion, each of the companies, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie headquarters, they all had, you know, you could sew your Ranger tab on your patrol cap. Then you also had these fluorescent, what are called cat eyes, that each company had a different different ones. Ours were triangles. Bravo companies were like rectangles. Charlie companies were reverse triangles. So, you know, you'd go and get everything sewn on there. So I go immediately to bring all, this is where we still didn't have pockets on our sleeves or anything.
Right.
Go to Kami Kim's, tell the lady, need these sewed up by this date. Okay, I do it. And what else? I go, no, that's it. So you sew it on. And I go, I need these cat eyes sewn onto this patrol cap. It's Alpha Company. So they're I know ACO. Yeah, so you get out of there. She sews all your stuff on. Have the weekend off. Go in on Monday. You know, you got your shit. You got your tab on. Everything really, you know, you're just, you know, life is good. You know, go up to my squad leader. He's like, you know, Vela, good. Got your tab, everything going. I got everything sewn on. Good, great. All right, go over to go to the arms room. Draw out the 240 Bravo spare barrels and tripods and stuff. We're doing a force march onto Hunter Army Pistol Range. We're going to do some trauma lanes and some good training out there. And you're like, I want to put in perspective here. I had beefed up a little bit to go to Ranger School, probably about 215. About 215. I went straight through Ranger School, and this is also recycling that pre-Ranger.
Right.
I came out of the swamps weighing $179, man.
Ooh.
179 pounds I weighed in at. I mean, 179 pounds. And I had just rehydrated or come back. I mean, I still had swelling in my legs, you know, the kind of the swelling. And so I come back, and I'm barely breaking 190 some now, and I probably can't even bench press. I couldn't even bench press 205. I was like, oh, like it was so
Really?
weak. I mean, that was like, you were very weak and feeble. By mountain phase, you're all ripped up. You're ripped, man. You got, you know, your six pack. You're like looking good. And then by Florida, your body's just mush. You know, just you're defeated. Unless you're like 130 pounds, then you're like, hey, I'm gaining weight. Like, eat shit. Yeah. I was Todd Lancaster. I gained weight. I'm like, eat shit. You know. So man, like right off the bat, you know, we go right into training because in Ranger Battalion, here's the difference. We need now, you know, conventional Army guys, you know, they get their tab, get some time off, whatever, and just go back to my unit. I got my Ranger tab. Battalion now, you're expected to go to school, get your Ranger tab, come back, and be ready to get back at it. There is no time off. There's no like this. Let me regain my hydration. No, there's no like. Let me get back to. No, we're training.
Right.
And then we went out to the field that week too to do some more training. And I just got moved to the weapon squad. I had come from the line squad when I first was assigned to Alpha Company First Platoon. I was in Second Squad. I was a line squad. So we were handling just, you know, like the M4, 240 Bravo, or the 203, the SAW. And then now I'm big guns. I'm with the weapon squad. We had the 240 Bravos, we had the 50 cal, we had the Marked Act team because Alpha Company, we were the mobility company. We had the RSOVs, we had the Kawasaki KLRs. We had the guns before Bravo and Charlie Company, and they kept that for quite a while until we spread it out to the rest of the rest of the companies. So that's kind of how it was after you finished Ranger School.
Wow. So after you finished your training, you come back for more training, and then where do you go? What is your first official assignment out of?
So you stay with the 1st Ranger Battalion, but I
Okay.
still remember to this day, we had just finished up like a platoon or a company PT, and retired General Tony Thomas, who was our colonel at the time, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Thomas, who actually retired as SOCOM's battalion as the general there. and now he's enjoying life. Great leader, great man, one of the best, probably one of the best, if not. He brings us all in, and he speaks to us, and he's like, 3rd Ranger Battalion and 75th Ranger Regiment was already in Afghanistan. And now the decision was made that we're sending one company over there to relieve them. And the company chosen was Alpha Company. It was us. So ACO was chosen because we had the big guns, which are, the heavy crew serve weapons, and we were the mobility company, meaning we had the Humvees, or we had the RSOVs at the time, which later became the Humvees, and we had the bikes. We just were, so it was a tough decision for General Thomas to say, like, to stand down Bravo and Charlie at the time, like, but only one company is going. And so we got selected to go, and so we had a couple of, our date to depart to Afghanistan was, I believe, after everything was said and done, we left 2 days after Christmas on December 27th of 2001. We rode out in style. We rode out on a commercial aircraft. That would be the first and only, coming back would be, it was a commercial aircraft.
Right.
And we landed in Masira Island, Oman, probably 2 days later, because we did stop at one point. Or actually, we did land in Masira Island, Oman. So we get there, and this place is nice. We get our tents, and then we all get kind of our weapons, or what we need, ammo. And so my company, first and second, my platoon, first and second platoons, we went to Bagram. And then 3rd platoon was going into Kandahar.
Okay.
So still remember that we ride in what's called a C-130 Casa, just packed in like sardines, not knowing what the hell's going to happen. We land in Bagram. I just remember it just being so, the mountains surrounding it, the Russian, like it was dark still, these railroad ties, like just as far as the landing strip, these wooden pallets as a walkway, tents, and we come off, and 2nd Ranger Battalion or the 3rd Ranger Battalion guys are about to jump on because they're going back home. Right. And they just start laughing like, "Have fun, guys! Don't step off the hard stand," because which meant don't get on because it was all still mined. Everything was still mined by the Russians. So just like that's what they said, stay on the hard stuff. And we were like, what the hell they mean there? So we all get in, we settle in these hooches, and then the morning comes, and obviously you're looking and just taking it all in how this place is, the destruction, it was the Bagram there was an old factory that I guess where the Russians made metal, all their junk and equipment around.
So the Russians' equipment was still there.
Oh yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was definitely a surreal sight. Then the mountains, the snow, and everything.
What was the weather like?
It was very cool at that time. It was cold. It was cold, but not unbearable. So I mean, being a Texas guy, you'd been, definitely the years you would learn to love, live the cold. From the deployments in Afghanistan. So.
Right. And how long were you there?
So that deployment was from, we arrived in Bagram on New Year's Eve of 2001, and that deployment lasted until April of 2002. I believe either April April.
And then what?
Oh, then we came back to the States, trained up, went into Yakima. I missed one deployment, but I'm glad I did because the guys just went and came back into late 2002. I had to get a back surgery done.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I hurt my back training in Yakima, Washington, herniated a disc, so had to have a surgery in September of 2002. Recovered very quickly from that. I'm glad the guys came back. They only were deployed for about maybe a month because there was nothing going on during that time. I recuperated, was ready to go in February of '03. I went to PLDC at Fort Stewart, or Primary Leadership Development course, to become a sergeant. And then we invaded Iraq in '03. So,
How long did it take you to feel like you were a Ranger?
well, I think right when you got your tab, and then and then when you began to get in those leadership, you knew you were definitely had no choice, but obviously what happened with in Operation, with Roberts Ridge and things like that.
Yes, and I wanted you to talk about that too. But go ahead.
That kind of took more shape, but then
Yeah.
First deployment and being in that kind of situation, that obviously I think I've spoken, it's continually, it's carried on.
Right.
So,
But when you got in your head, because this had been a goal for so long, how long did it take you to click in your head, hey, I've arrived? Or did that ever happen?
I don't think it ever happened. I think everything just moved so. I think you never really. It never happened because you graduated Ranger School, get back. I mean, you already knew 9/11 already happened.
Right.
So we already are like, okay, let's get into the fight here. Come back training, and you knew you were going to get deployed. It was just a matter of time of like, okay, which we knew we had good intel that General Thomas, that it was going to be Alpha Company because of our diversity at that time, meaning that we had the crew serve weapons and we had the mobility training. Nothing against Bravo and Charlotte, make great.
Sure.
I mean, good. I mean, we had to obviously we cross trained them as very quickly in 2002, and so then now everyone had that capability. But I never arrived, to answer your question. I
Right.
never did, because then it just kept on. You kept on just training from there, and then either deploying or training. I don't think it ever sank in.
Right.
And then you felt that any training, like especially going to a course like Sergeant School, which I think it's Warrior Leadership course now, I don't know, is kind of a waste of time.
Did you feel adequately prepared when you first were deployed? Did you feel like you were fully prepared for your mission?
I had great. We had. I guess I got pointed out. There's a method behind the madness on why we do what we do, why you're treated the way you're treated, why you're put in pressure situations, why you're put in when you're giving task conditions and standards, why you're given a timeline, why are you given 1 minute, why are you given 10 seconds, why after that 10 seconds you're pounding your face with push-ups, why you're doing flutter kicks, why are you making me climb this rope over and over again. There is method to the madness, and the reasons why is because when the time comes to execute or to be told to do something where your life is in danger, you're not going to be as secondhand think about it.
Right.
When you're told to go move carefully onto that 47 to grab more ammunition and bring it back down carefully, you don't say, well, they just shot at me, I'm not going up. No hesitations, like Roger.
Right.
It's like, Roger that. I'm moving into that. And I got to get to here to there. And I got to move back to here to there. And I have to move to do this. There's no, or you got to get up that mountain. Or you have to move up it.
Right.
Regardless of how much your lungs are burning or how your legs are burning or how much you're carrying and things like that. And that's the whole thing. That's what happened is it changed you to be the next generation of leaders to try and train the next crew to be ready. That this is not a joke. I mean, this I had one guy one time think that he's like, so when are we issued swords? I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, aren't we going to be Rangers? Like the Lord of the Rings? Like who? Like Aragorn? Are you shitting me? Guy thought he was Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings. I go, bro, you ain't getting no sword, but we're going to give you a gun and other things. And I swear to God, if you ever say that shit again, I'm going to pound your head off this wall. I was like, what the hell am I talking about? I go, what? What? Like, when did we get sword surgeon? I'm like, you made it to be where you had to be extra cynical and or diabolical with the guys. Like just some took it more extreme than others.
Sure.
Some were a little bit more. I was not in the extreme levels. I was very just like it's a family, coaches and educators.
Right.
So I was very much very to the point, instructing, this is why it's important. This is why, if you piss me off, it was a good reason why you pissed me off.
Right.
All right? Because
Right.
if maybe you lost something, that you lose an article, like a sensitive, like, now, okay, well, I'm going to have you tie down with an end of the line bowline knot to everything you own. So yeah, just it definitely never sunk in. That's for sure.
So after you came back from Afghanistan, you're back home doing a little more training, and then you head to Iraq.
So Iraq was in '03. Yes,
Okay.
they invaded down, and so thankfully they allowed us to. The Rangers that were there at PLDC, they allowed us to skip the field problem, because like, you guys already been in the field plenty. So got back, then deployed to Iraq. So we didn't land in Iraq. There was a lot of controversy on where to stage. Where we staged was an undisclosed location in Saudi Arabia. Conventional Army was working out of Kuwait. And so initially what was going to happen, I remember we were going to do a huge airfield seizure on Bayat, Baghdad International Airport. I know it was going to be like the end of it was going to be like the day of days and things like that. It was like there's something out of hell, like. But then I guess the word got out or whatever, or maybe they completely fortified Bayat with dirt mounds all over the airfield, so you couldn't land anything there, and a lot of ADAs. There was a lot of air defense artillery put in place, so it would have been a real meat grinder, because you would have to, they would insert us via rotary wing assets, which are sitting ducks with that many people on there. Because I don't know if it was going to, I don't think it was going to be, it was not going to be a jump. I think certain aspects of 87, were going to jump, but then also just to secure it, and to, like, how are you going to clear the airfields to bring in now your 130s and other things like that.
Yeah.
So we went the conventional route, which was Rolling Thunder all the way on up there into Iraq, which was like one hit after the other, so very, very dynamic, things like that. So
what was that experience like for you?
oh yeah, it was.
I mean, you were invading. This is not something.
Yeah,
this is not what you were doing in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
this is more than
yeah,
that.
because you're like we moving into Iraq. You're kind of like, well, I mean, this is what the commander in chief has put out. We're gonna. And I always looked at it like, yeah, this is what. Yeah, I'm gonna point it this way. When you're in that, like, state of mind of like, oh man, this is what I train to do. This is what I do. This is what we do. This is what it's. I go, oh, yeah, it's time to get out of town anyway. Like let's get out of town. Let's take the cell phone. Let's toss it into the locker. Let's avoid. Let's go have some. Let's go have fun here. Let's enjoy. Let's shoot it. Let's be Rangers, guys. Let's go do it. So I did. It was a total invasion. It was a very methodical movement all the way up until everything was secured at the time. And then you're kind of like, okay, I mean, because that deployment was March of 2003. We were only there, because we came back. We invaded in '03, correct? March '03. Then I came back. I think after everything was said and done, it was kind of like, okay, what do we do now, guys? And they said, okay, all the Ranger units except for 2nd can go back home. I think we were still sending some remnants there were some guys in Afghanistan still. But yeah, the invasion went pretty, pretty good. Some guys were involved with the Jessica Lynch mission.
Oh yeah.
So some guys were Charlie Company. I think Bravo and Charlie were involved in that. So I wasn't involved with that, but I heard how bad it was, how they needed to get in, and because you had to get the remains and of Lynch's convoy that had been ambushed and stuff during that. So I heard it was pretty rough. And we were still wearing these chemical protective overgarments, these CPOGs at the time.
Okay.
Man, that was those were hot as hell with that. So it wasn't until we took Baghdad and it was secure that we could move into strip off those damn chemical things and move into just a regular desert uniform and stuff.
Right. So what was there anything that stands out in Iraq to you? Any mission or anything that you were involved in that
Obviously
really stands out?
Well, nothing that stands out. I believe that as you learn later on, the structures and buildings were completely different. So room clearing, close quarter combat, in comparison to Iraq and which came on later on, Iraq and Afghanistan were different. So the one thing I will take away that you remember clearly is what to pack. I always carry what are called wipes with me now, because trying to take go to the restroom in a sandstorm using conventional toilet paper is not the most beneficial thing.
Wow.
Because the toilet paper will fly everywhere. It's best to have like a wipey and things
Sure.
like that. So.
But there's little things like that.
Just little things that we just break it.
Isn't that funny?
So nothing like it was just I felt we just came in there and just they were very dynamic, very quick missions. We were fortunate that there were some issues that happened in regards that I wasn't involved with other units. A friendly fire incident that happened onto I believe a SEAL team. So by a conventional arm, because the markings were, a lot of times, we didn't have markings on our things. We had to put the panels, the VS-17 panels onto our vehicles with infrareds, the glint tape and things like that. So these things definitely, have happened with it. So, but it was came in there, crushed, and took care of business.
So after that first deployment to Iraq, you came back. Now, when did you get married within all of this?
I didn't get married until after I was done with my first enlistment. I didn't get married until 5, so yeah.
Okay. So you came back. What did you do after you came back from Iraq?
We come back, we train. I had not done a parachute jump in a while because I had had the back surgery, so it worked out great. I was able to, surgery had been September of 2002, get back, and it's been for a while since I hadn't jumped. So we get back in March, or we get back in the April-May timeframe, and we got to get those jumps in. So we start getting some training in, get some jumps, get some training in, good stuff going on, and then Operation Winter Strike happens. So we had to deploy in October. We were deployed back to Afghanistan to operate for Operation Winter Strike had to go out into the mountains of looking for this one certain individual, this warlord. So
I see. And how did that differ from the first time in Afghanistan? And it's less urban than your experience in Iraq, I'm assuming. So
this differed. The Cantiva deployment, I have friends, we did missions, we, fired our weapons, we fired at people, this deployment is, and I have friends that are unit guys that have just retired, other guys this is the deployment we talk about the most, because it was a complete, we didn't shoot shit but walk in snow up and down this whole valley. Wow. We will talk about Cantiva till people have podcasts, they have podcasts, they do this and that. We always joke that we should have a podcast about 80s action movies, random shit in 80s action movies, and Cantiva. That's all we should have about. We should just talk about Cantiva, about phase line gold, phase line copper, phase line silver, walking up and down in snow, living in hooch, taking over some Mr. Roper, this Afghani's thing for like random stuff, retrieving CDS drops that the Air Force were dropping off on the side of a mountain because they didn't want to listen to our Pathfinders, and it was something else. It was snow. It was a village in the middle of nowhere. The people we had saw when we were looking for a certain individual, and we were using these tiger guides that were awesome.
Explain what a tiger guide is.
They were those that had fought, like they they were, for American cause, but they had fought against the Russians. So one guy had been shot by a Russian. He had AK-47 round in his thigh.
These are Afghanis.
Yeah, Afghanis. They were great. So you're just walking up and down this thing and just saw some people that just like, wow, the reference I use is, you saw some kind of deliverance kind of stuff, like ding, 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 like
Really?
very like you're the, like very like inbred, like just because
Yeah.
you're up in the middle of nowhere. There is no one out there, and the takeaway was this was like we already had a huge camaraderie. This actually put it to another level, but we were also losing. Like it was like just cold snow. Didn't have the right gear for some reason, and went to Second Ranger back to the Mountain Battalion, and we're like, well, we're here too. But you learn. I learned, more about the culture of the Afghanis too, especially from the guides on tea when they would always break bread on the refusing to come. It's like an American. If you say like, okay, I'll try and make it. Like, you should come for
Right.
tea. We're gonna cook out at this time. If you can make it, make it. I'll try and make it. There, if you don't make it, it's an insult. So you kind of learn more about the culture, what to
Yes.
reach, how to keep, the left hand's unholy, to reach for that, to not show the soles of your feet. I remember me and and the one tiger, we exchanged knives at the end. Very good knife. It's a Russian bayonet, and I gave him like, hey, you want the buck? I gave him a buck. We were up in those mountains for typical ranger mission. Typical be up there for. We would always joke still, I'll be up there 72 hours, and it turned into 50-some days.
Right.
50-some days up there, man. I mean, just no shower. You're cleaning yourself with Joey wipes, going up to the highest level to get highest peak to get the, fill up your 5-gallon jug stuff. But it was crisp. The water was so clean because he didn't want to use it in the bottom because the locals would wash their ash in there and stuff like that. Right. So they'll be looking at you like, well, yeah, good.
Good water.
So it was, I remember we got X filled out of there on Christmas Day and stuff.
Oh, right.
And, some say they kept us there because they hated our platoon sergeant who, we also quote him to this day. He was not, because our first platoon sergeant in my first deployment he was outstanding, but Chucky P was all for the boys and also very vocal and we got a new sergeant major right before Iraq, and he was freaking by the book, thought we were a bunch of cowboys, things like that. Just some of these guys, some of them don't want to. They hold on to the past and the old stuff and don't want to say, the times change, so they're at that.
So tell me about maybe the most difficult mission.
Oh, it's obviously going to be that Takagar. I mean, is Robert's Ridge.
Yes.
That was. It probably would have been more difficult. The only way to add more difficulty on it is if you were in a more of a leadership role, like Captain Self, or like the other guys, to have the decisions that had to be made, or the fight that you were trying to make with Higher.
So give a little background to that mission.
Okay, so on the early morning hours of March 3rd, we had been notified that a Navy SEAL had fallen out of a 47 aircraft. They were trying to insert on top of a mountaintop to set up an observation point because it was a start of what was called Operation Anaconda. So the only thing that we knew about it going in is that a Navy SEAL had fallen out, and we had to get a quick reaction force or a CSAR team in to go get him. And we had three Ranger platoons. We had platoons ready on standby in order to do that. And so we went on standby for it, and we launched and didn't arrive onto the base of the mountain until later on that early morning. By this point, we had heard that our guys had been shot down trying to retrieve him, and so we had to move up to the top of the mountain to get him. Immediately after I stepped off the 47, I walked in snow that was about knee deep. I'm carrying, extensive amount of gear. We all are, and we start to try and move up to the mountain to link up with our fallen with our rangers, with our ranger unit, with our platoon. At this time, we had heard that we had lost 2 guys. That we need to move up. We need to hurry, and so it takes us a good bit to get up there. But once we link up with our guys, we're able to neutralize the bunker and start to build a casualty collection point from there. It's at this time that we were counterattacked from the rear, and we used aerial assets to neutralize that, and then it came down. That's when we got another PJ was shot, which was Cunningham at that time. Then later on, we found Chapman. We had no idea. John Chapman. We had no idea, and that's a lot of things. There's a lot of things on YouTube on this. I mean, on the Chapman, Roberts, Slabinski, there's a lot of things on there. There's a lot of things, and a lot of big thing about when you talk about the interview that I did for Live to Tell to Ray Mendoza, that me, Captain Self, and Tony Maselli did. We talked exclusively about the Ranger mission. That's what we talked about. So the comments that sometimes came out like, oh, well, Chapman did this. I mean, why don't they talk about Chapman? I never comment on it, but I want to say, like, dude, we didn't even know about Chapman.
Right.
We did not know Chapman. We didn't know that Slabinski and the guys had tried to go back to get Roberts. We did not know that. Or maybe because my rank as a Ranger Tab D4, maybe my squad leader knew, maybe somebody else knew. Then maybe I put 2 and 2 together when I saw this Navy SEAL that was walking up with us, that linked up with us when we were trying to climb up the mountain, and was trying to talk to my squad leader to say, like, hey, can you come and help my guys, which was Slabinski and his guys.
I see.
And my squad leader said, like, no, we got to get up there. You can go wherever you want. We got to get up there.
Right.
We're not helping any of your, like, we got to help our guys. So we did not know any of that
right.
about Chapman. I mean, and obviously when found him, I mean, the first shock was like, before we were able to link up with our guys up on the mountain, is Captain Self thought that he was able to put a Hellfire missile into the bunker. He had thought that he had killed Chapman. He's like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? Was he already dead, or was he there hiding out?
Yeah.
But the wounds, obviously, looking at him, the wounds were not, it was gunshot. It was not from anything.
Right. It wasn't friendly fire.
No, but definitely not friendly fire.
Right.
It was not from us.
Right.
So that's why this, a lot of controversy behind it and stuff.
Let's be clear that 2 medals of honor came out of this
correct
event. How long was the action on Roberts Ridge? How long did that?
Well, we were there.
last?
Wow. Okay. Well, if you're starting with, it was I think anywhere from an 18-hour ordeal, maybe at a minimum, because you start with the, I still remember going to the 47, loading up. My Camelback bladder had popped, so I'm already wet as shit. I'm not wearing. We don't have the proper snivel gear for it. I don't have. I have a silky. Good thing I didn't have any bottoms, or else you would have really. I mean, I think I had bottoms, and it was burning up, and I was walking up that mountain. Didn't have the winter boots we were wearing were not appropriate for it. Some guys had deserts. That was definitely not appropriate for it. So you started that late that night. The early morning. You started March 3rd, at like the first alert of local time. What was about 2300. Moving into the early morning hours. I mean, we had to stop at Gardez one time, and we're kind of like still in a limbo mode. Are we launching? What are we doing? Are we going? Right. What are we doing? So, and then by the time we do land, it's already daylight hours, and we're taking small arms fire and then direct fire, walking up this thing in knee-deep snow. And
how much were you aware of what it was that you were supposed to be doing?
The only goal was get up that hill, get up this mountain, watch everyone's back, watch my guys, watch everyone's back, and get up there. That was the only thing. Get up. We got to get together.
Okay.
I knew. I mean, and General Thomas will always say this too. I knew when you guys linked up, you would kick their ass.
Right.
General Thomas said it straight out. Like I knew once everyone linked up, once you gathered, once you once we got up there, it was no stopping. We just went right at it. We set up the fire. We set up base of fires, and we executed straight up battle drill number 5. Knock out a bunker.
And who all was involved in that? Because you had Navy SEALs,
There were no Navy SEAls up there with us. It was a whole Ranger.
Oh, is that right?
They were already they had broke contact. So that's when we were walking up the mountain. That Navy SEAL that was with us wanted us to go help Slabinski and his Navy SEAL crew,
Right.
and we said no, we got to get up there. You can go wherever the hell you want to go. I remember
What was going on with the SEAL group?
They think they were just they made their own CCP, their own casualty collection point, because some of the guys had been hit.
I see.
So they were kind of hunkering in, staying.
And you were going up.
We're going up to go get we're going up top of that mountain.
And who were your guys as you refer to them? Who
It was a combination of first platoon. So with that platoon, you had Captain Self, another squad leader, Brad Cross, who was killed in action, Matt Commons killed in action, another team leader, I won't mention his name, Mark Anderson, who was killed in action on the bird itself. And they had with them two PJs. So
Right.
they did have two pararescue jumpers, one being Jason Cunningham.
Okay.
And so they had that plus that the 160th flight crew that they had. Also killed in combat, the door gunner, which is Phil Svitek, was killed. And so our chalk walking up was me and Randy Pazder were the weapon squad. And so me and Randy were the weapon squad, and then we had obviously Maselli was on chalk, was on the first one too, that got shot up. So we were all Ranger exclusive walking up. There was no other,
I see.
no pararescue, no Navy SEALs, and the only ones left on that mountain that were besides the 2 Air Force guys is Chapman, that we did not know of, and the killed Navy SEAL, which was Roberts, and 160th members.
And what launched all this? What was the mission that they were trying to accomplish that brought about this event?
That certain observation point gave you visibility, high ground. We were launching Operation Anaconda at that time with conventional forces, trying to flush out. It was because the summer, it was coming it was starting to get warm again. These guys, the different types of different insurgents were moving out, whether they be Taliban or other types of fighters. Later, come to find out that the fighters that were up there were not even Taliban, but a certain other that were fighting with them. So they didn't understand. They fought for the Taliban, but come to find out later on, they were put up there as like muscle for the Taliban. Here, you guys go up there and go hunker because it's cold up there.
Right.
It sucks. The Taliban didn't want to be up there. They're like, then they didn't. They only had. I think they only had one Taliban. According to from my source, and this is obviously late. This is all through the years of stuff later on that I learned. Sure. I heard they only had one Taliban up there because he was the one manning the Dishka. They didn't want these other these other little guys manning. These guys that were working for him to man. They're not touching our Dishka. They could use the RPK. Or they could use the RP. They could do this, but they're not going to do that. So that's why they put it up there. But,
I see.
But that position allowed you complete overwatch on everything.
How did it fall apart?
Fog of war, like anything. Originally, I
mean, is it fair to say that it fell apart?
It completely fell apart. It was just, we were all young in this game. The last combat with anybody, had been Somalia. Mm-hmm. And even then, you're trying to look at what unit guys are involved that had maybe experienced in undisclosed locations fighting, whether down in South America or, if you know
Right.
what I mean.
Yes.
I mean, you had Grenada in '83, you had Panama in '89, Desert Storm in '91, obviously Somalia. You're looking back at all these skirmishes we had been a part of. Like, we had not been in anything really major in quite a long
But
time.
you said it was skirmishes
Yeah,
all of this
we had
time.
not been in a like where and you had a lot of beating chests. You had, I mean, if you have a SEAL Team 6 that's coming in, they feel like they know what they can do and what their capabilities are. They're relieving a certain unit. That may or may not have said, like, we highly recommend you do not insert on top of the mountain, that you move up because we don't know what's up there. We don't, things of that nature. You have different SOPs that are put in place in regards to who's providing overwatch between, Spectre, between fast movers, who comes off station, who's coming on, who's harder to, hit.
Right.
You don't have an operations center that's located, that a designated full-fledged operations center in Bagram still. You have it down in Oman. You have a lot of factors that are coming in, that come into play here, and also, it comes down to also underestimation. You underestimate your opponents and their capabilities. It's their terrain.
Yeah.
They know it. They fought in it. They've been in it. I mean, a lot longer than some of us have been breathing. A lot longer than us have been breathing, even if you are, close to 50. That's how I kind of always have summed it up. The longer it's gone, and it's kind of as one of those things where it can. The battle and the mission continues to be told and said from this time. So you learn different things from it.
So you all worked your way up to where your people were, and then what?
So once we linked up with them, we went right into it. We conducted a battle drill number 5, but knock out a bunker. So we suppressed fire onto that bunker, and guys swung around to flank it. Took care of business right there. I mean, once we linked up, it was only a matter of time. We started just singing. We started putting the 240 Bravo right on that bad boy, collecting, just like we did in any training. It was just like, hey, you're putting fire on something, then you start to shift, into the lift until everything just kind of comes apart. It's tried and true tactics that still work depending on the terrain that it was in.
Right.
And so once that was happened, we had a short period where we had to, we were doing security and doing a casualty collection point. That's when we were counterattacked by the rear by small arms fire and indirect fire, and also RPGs and stuff.
So in that 18-hour time frame, what were your thoughts?
I mean, well, once I knew that, that we had lost the guys, the next, I mean, I don't really remember anything kind of standing out in my head. I mean, I was still kind of like, obviously not in that leadership position, so you didn't know about extractions. The only time I kind of was like, felt really like, is when we were moving. We had to move Matt and Brad, and and then when Jason Cunningham, because we could not get another, they didn't want to risk having another 47 shot down because we had already lost, 2 for that day, pretty much. They felt like, that's, seeing a guy like, bleed out, because you don't have plasma or you don't have blood, it's something that you could have maybe prevented. I mean, that was tough. I mean, I remember his PJ. I remember our medic had to take over to try and sustain because he was his PJ's friend. Jason was the other guy was his friend, so he just kind of was like kind of in a shock, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
So
can imagine.
That was the only time that then we kind of hunker in, and we had to wait till nightfall to once a Navy SEAL team came in and got us, and we loaded casualties or anyone who had wounds first, and then our dead, and then we loaded up and stuff like that.
So how long were you in Afghanistan after that?
So did 3 more deployments to Afghanistan, or that deployment.
Well, that particular deployment
happened on March 4th, and we didn't come back to Savannah until just until the end of April. And so then I did another deployment to Afghanistan for that Operation Winter Strike, that Kantiwa. That was in October 2003, and we came back, I believe, just January of 2004. Did that. Did a few schools after Kantiwa, Jumpmaster, SEER School. So SEER School happened. That was level C. I missed marching on St. Patty's Day. I missed that. So because I had only marched to one St. Patty's Day, and that had been in March 2001 when we still had the Black Berets. And man, that was a good time. Because then we weren't we hadn't marched in a parade since then, because of going back and forth on deployments.
Right.
And then I decided to be high speed, and they asked if I wanted to go to SEER Level C school up at Camp McCall, at Camp Slap Me, and I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially because it was General Rose, Nicky Rose school. I'm like, as a proud Texas native, I'm like, I'd love to. And that was a great school. That was a very good school. I take.
And what was that school?
Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, level C. So you have you go through your survival, your evasion, captivity. You learn a lot of. I guess these when you talk to Boy Scouts or Eagle Scouts, lighting fires, things like that. But you're doing it to an extreme, and then you really learn a lot about your body and what it can and can't do. You already learned a lot, but then it just survival method behind it, the stealth behind things, and then captivity was fun before you got liberated, because you will get captured eventually.
Everybody gets captured.
Everyone
eventually?
Gets captured. Everyone has a fun time there.
Oh goodness!
And everyone has fun.
And you were debriefed, I guess.
Yeah, we were liberated. You were liberated. You were liberated. Came back. I still remember me and a good friend of mine, Jesse the Body Yandel. Jesse was out of Charlie Company. Good guy. He lives in Carolina now. When we got back, we were staying at the Pope Hotel. I think it was Pope. It was a crappy hotel there on Post at Bragg. We decided to go to an Outback Steak, because we hadn't eaten really much. Just obviously they're not feeding you, and go to this Outback Steakhouse and just demolish everything there. And thank God, I barely made it back to my room in time. Barely. I barely made it back, if you know what I mean. I was like, I still remember when I got back home, my ex-wife, my girlfriend at the time, I took off my shirt. She's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "He had bruises and stuff like that." Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, "Oh yeah, that's." I was like, "Yeah, it happens." It is like whatever. It's just,
Right.
but no, it was a great school. That was in March. Jumpmaster course, but before that, then deployed to Afghanistan again. That was the summertime one, and that one we were down by. That was a heck of a deployment. That was a busy one. That was Shkin. We were down by Shkin, Salerno, Kaust, Chapman Air Base. That was around the time. I know Jonas's platoon got in a lot more contact than we did twice, and down by Shkin on their BPs that they had, patrol bases. And it was also during the time that Pat Tillman was killed.
Oh, well.
Yeah, so when Pat Tillman was killed in 2004, so we had been operating down there, and then we took over for that 2nd Ranger Bat when they pulled out and redeployed back to the States. And after that had happened with Pat Tillman, they had stopped operation for a bit.
Right.
So then it was very much like the Hornets had settled. So now we spun up the Hornets nest again. It was a lot of mission. We did a lot of stuff out there. That was a good deployment.
How aware were you?
I was a squad leader at the time there.
Okay.
So I had already. So to give you a timeline on it, I was a Ranger Tab D4, first deployment, Iraq. I was a sergeant, so I was a team leader back on the line. Cantiwa, I was a team leader, sergeant, line squad. And then for the fourth deployment, which was Afghanistan, this one I was in charge of first squad, so I was a squad leader. So I was still a sergeant, but I was promotable. I was going to pin my rocker on. So.
And so how many total deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan?
The last one was Iraq. The last one was in January 05 to Iraq, coming back in April, May timeframe. Yeah, that was that one we were operated out of Ramadi, but I did a lot of what is called CSARC. Me and my team was doing a lot of casualty search and rescue stuff with a 3-man Air Force special ops element. So there you learned a lot about. Learned a lot more about CSAR and the involvement of what goes into recovery and what it means to the no man left behind aspect.
I see.
Which, when you come into recovery, you need to get all positive, and by mean positive, any article you can find of that person, whether it's, and that's why you need body bags usually.
Right.
So you learn that the mission's not over until we have every positive identification that we have, the manifest from who was on this aircraft, and go from there.
What was the most difficult deployment for you?
I don't know if there was any. There was not any difficult ones. I don't really rank up any of the. Obviously, the most amusing one has Cantiwa, because that's all we ever talk about.
Right.
I mean, and that's
and that to most people would seem rather mundane.
Yeah,
but
I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, most
you
people.
guys,
I think I think nowadays a lot of people have podcasts, a lot of people have written books, and a lot of people embellish or they say things. And me and my friends, we never really talk. We never really I mean, some guys will have different thoughts. Like most of the time, we always just the only bad thought I've ever heard, or just not bad, but it's not survivor's guilt, but they feel like they should feel something for something that they did over there or that they witnessed or saw. And I'm like, I know everyone has it. I just he says, man, I sleep like a baby. I don't care. I mean, it's because of the training and because of this, but you're not alone thinking that. A lot of us think that, but I could see somebody having more issues if they went into like those that were in the Jessica Lynch convoy. Like you come into it they join the military, they just want to get the GI Bill or just do this, but it does bring out also extraordinary, people that don't look to join them. I went into the military wanting to do this, while some people that's the only choice they have because they can't, they're not bright enough, or maybe they are. And then you meet some of these people that during combat have done such extraordinary things. There's a lot of them out there that but you don't ever know what they're how they're feeling after, later on as you get older, in regards to post-traumatic stress and things like that. So I'm very glad I'm proud to be able to keep up with them, whether it be through social media. And a lot of people hate social media, but I use it to stay in touch, to message guys, to be with guys, to try and arrange things, to get to, when we do these reunions, to see how they're doing. I pride myself on, when I call you, I'm not asking, for anything. I'm calling just to shoot the shit or just to see how you're doing. I am a big texter, though. I do like the text where, but most of my text is there's no, nothing behind it, just you quote a stupid movie, fucking,
right.
it's using the trees, from Predator or some shit like that, And then another guy, he always was still, he's Randy Pazder. We were the gun team that climbed up, and I still to this day, I watch a movie clip, of a shitty movie like Congo, where there's a part where this guy tells the dude to stop eating his cake, and I sent it to the clip to him, and he just starts laughing, on via text. He's like, "Dude, I love you, man." He's like, "I was having a shitty week," and I was I was having a shitty week, but just seeing this right now just cracked me the freak up, man. I miss you, man. Because that's all. When we got together for one of my friends' retirements from the unit last year, it was last and he had been with us on the ridge, and we're gathered around the campfire, or around a fire, drinking, sipping some whiskey, and we were just quoting stuff and just cracking up. And my friend had just retired. His dad's there, and his dad he's talking about like never doing any of these interviews, podcasts. So he had never done anything, and so he had never told his dad anything. He said, "Oh, he never tells me anything." And so all we do is just tell the story of how he did this or how he did that. And so he's like, his dad, he's like loving it. And I'm just like, I go, that's your son, man. That was just like, man. He's like, but he never told, like, but this is a funny story. Why don't you tell me this? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know, Dad. He's like, but it is funny. He's like, but this guy, he's like, Omar's good at movie quotes, stories, and just like, he's really good at like impersonations. And actually, I was really good at doing that. And my brother's the thespian, though. My brother.
Oh, is that right?
I had to take a course in high school just to graduate. And you know what? I actually did one improv because I had to get one credit, like to get credit. And I did some skit from hell, and I got second place. And all the drama people were all pissed off. Like, how, you got second? It's your first tournament. You just made that shit up. Like, it was an improv. He gave me a card. I just made up some kind of random sequence where three random individuals, celebrities, were in an elevator together.
Right.
And how one guy was trying to impress the other celebrity. That's that I did.
So now, tell me where you got married in the chronology.
Okay, so going back, the last deployment, Iraq. I mean, obviously you face this kind of situation where you may be a little burnt out. You may be a little tired.
Sure.
I had already gotten engaged. I was engaged, and our wedding was set for December of 2005.
How did you meet her, first of all?
She went to the Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh, okay.
He went to SCAD. So I met her very actually early. I met her when I was about to go to Ranger School, start the pre-Ranger course in a couple of weeks. I think it was a few weeks I was about to start it. So the cool thing about that is I didn't have to go to ex-evals or training at Fort Bragg to do trench clearing, which I heard was a complete ball buster. I was able to chill back at the barracks and wait, have a week down or a couple of weeks down before I went to Benning for that. But I met her in Savannah at a bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long did you date before you got married?
We dated from 2000 until 2005, or until I got married in 2005. Yeah.
Oh, 5 years?
Well, it was 2001. Yeah, 2001 to that. Yeah.
Wow, 4 years. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And you said you were married for 15 years, is what you said?
Yeah. 2020.
And how did you communicate with your family while you were deployed?
We usually had Iridium phones. So you
really?
can contact them via Iridium if you that. But I was very big at not using it too much. You did have these NWR tents later on as the years went on and the deployments grew. You had these NWR tents and stuff like that. So that started to get bigger and
right.
But I was really big at trying not to. But they were some worriers sometimes, especially when. Because Iraq, you blew out of there pretty quick, and then that Operation Winter Strike to Cantigua, you blew out of there very quickly. Those were those quick hot and pop where you have 18 hours to get the hell out of town.
I see. Yeah, so that would make it pretty difficult for them, for the folks you leave behind. So you got married, and that was after your last deployment? Is that what you said?
I got my last deployment. I was coming on my ETS date of September of 2005.
Okay.
And so I thought about re-enlisting, had this grand plan, because I felt like, well, let's re-enlist, let's take a break. Let's go to, regiment. I could put in to be a RIP instructor or rope or pre-ranger. And it was kind of like Omar, she kind of was like, if you're set to deploy again, while we're about to get married, and you saw what happened with so and so and this, right. You'll miss your own wedding. Why don't you just? I'm not going to move to Fort Benning. I don't want to move to Fort Benning or Columbus or Phoenix City or any of this. And I'm like, okay, so why don't you try something at whatever, just you're tired. Look, you've had close calls. Also,
right.
you're only as good as your last mission. you're finishing up on top, kind of thing like that too. Which was they were that, and that's a difference too in the Ranger Battalion. They were to the very last day that I left, that I signed that I left. They were trying to keep have me re-enlist, saying if you did try and go to selection for the unit, that there would be no repercussions if you didn't make it. I think just bonuses, this, that. They really try and keep you, because and I felt proud of that. I really always took that and felt proud that
Sure.
instead of oh, a guy's leaving, good, bye. Here's the
Right.
door. Don't let it hit you on your way out.
Yeah.
So I felt proud about that I was leaving at a high mark. I definitely was always an outspoken guy too, in regards to trying to always make things better, revamp, learn from mistakes, never settle, continue to use, to change if things are, if they're beating us one way with a tactic, to change it this way. Left September. We got married in December. My goal was to get back to. I was like, look, it doesn't make sense to me. I know she was working for SCAD at the time, in admissions, and I said, look, it doesn't make sense for me to be. If I'm not a battalion, I just don't. I mean, I love Savannah. Don't get me wrong, but I'm a Texas guy. It doesn't make sense for me to be here. It's so close to battalion. I mean, I was working as a personal trainer, and I'm kind of like, So I decided to move back to Texas, to Round Rock. To paint a picture, though, I had looked at federal service beforehand. And it was before, there was a time after Iraq that I did take the FBI exam in Atlanta, but did not pass it. Felt it was easy, but I guess maybe my answers were too crazy. But at that point, I really just thought federal service was not going to be they're looking for dorks or something. That's kind of how I kind of felt but I re-enlisted, and so we get to Texas. I'm working as a personal trainer. Then I work as a strength and conditioning coach, because I got all my searches. I still am certified as a strength and conditioning coach, as a certified strength coach and personal trainer. So working there, and I stumble upon a few people that I work with. A friend of mine that I worked with, her boyfriend at the time was working for the Army National Guard there at Camp Maybury in Austin, Texas. And I'm like, what do you do for them? I work with the counter drugs unit, or the SOD. You still have to do drill and stuff. So I'm working as an instructor at our training path. But, we also have a LURS unit that you could probably use. I go, but I know a guy that is looking for instructors like yourself that have Ranger time, quick react. He's running an active duty operational support unit that does personal recovery. And what they do is they go around to teach the other National Guard guys and reservists, and sometimes active duty, they give them a block of instruction on some SEER level beast, genuine SEER, just the code of conduct, surviving captivity, the environmental aspects of Afghanistan, Iraq, just to kind of get these guys certified, because after the whole thing that happened with Jessica Lynch, a lot of these units had to complete what are called warrior tasks and skills and get checked off before they get overseas to deploy. They had to fulfill that you've done this type of SEER training, because that group of Jessica Lynch, the Nazaria group, had gone through anything extensive, just a little SEER level B, a little DVD thing. So.
And they just stumbled right into it.
And so I found this job, so I joined back up with the military on that job in January of 2008. And so I start working with that unit
as a civilian.
No, I got my rank back and everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
So because as much as I liked training people, getting them better, stronger, faster, was working a lot with Round Rock SWAT department, with the fire department at Lake Travis, combat, doing their combat fire to fire challenge. It's still not paying the bills, man. It's a low money. I was offered a job even to be a strength coach for the minor league team for the Washington Nationals, because I'd made a contact there with the head strength guy. But man, you're paying me about $30,000. I mean, $30,000 a year traveling around in my truck, that Silverado, with a bunch of medicine balls and it just and bands. I don't know if this is not. If I was a single guy, yeah, man, I could make it stretch. But being married at the time, she was working. She got a job in Austin, so I took this job, and then the funny story happened of how I became a Secret Service agent.
How long did that second enlistment last for you?
So I was there from January of 2008 until I got hired by Secret Service in June 2010. So until that time frame. So
about 2 years.
2 years. So total military service wise, from March 2000 to September of 05, I had about 5 years, 6 months, and then this time around about 2.5. So about
Okay.
2 years and 5 months. So obviously it's about close to 8 years of total military time. And for this personal recovery team, I was just instructing, just coordinating logistics and trying to get training as many. Went to TDY to cool places like Hawaii twice, then
wow.
but then saw the other installations like Fort Sill. Do not recommend.
Right.
Fort Leonardwood. Do not recommend. Yeah, because I had not gone to that. The ones that I had gone to the most obviously were Lewis, Yakima. We went to Bragg. Fort Campbell, Fort Polk. Ooh, yeah, that was rough. Blanding.
Yeah.
So when I was with battalion, that's where we kind of go to. Then I come to here to train these guys, and I'm like, what the. Sill was rough, man. That's in Lawton. Don't go there if you don't go there.
Right.
So I did that, but it was during that time is when I met a Secret Service agent, and so I'm at the grocery store. I'm at HEB down there in I believe Leander or Cedar Park, and this guy passes by me, African American, good shape, wearing a Miami Hurricanes t-shirt. And I'm like, that's something you don't see here in Austin too much.
Right.
And I'm like, hey man, did you go to the U? He's like, yeah, I went to Miami. He's like, oh, you're in good shape. They could use your help because they fucking suck now. And he just kind of was like, what the hell? So he, I'm shopping. He comes back around. He's like, hey, are you in the military and stuff? I'm like, yeah, in the military and stuff. He's like, yeah, I could tell. What did you do there? What are you doing? I'm like, kind of gave him a little breakdown, and then he asked, I think he was a Marine, and he had done Texas State Police here, and he asked, well, have you ever thought about, federal, being an agent or something with one of the, I said, yeah. I said, yeah, I took the FBI test. I didn't pass it. I felt like, they're just looking for a bunch of dorks. So he's like, well, you ever thought of Secret Service? I'm like, Secret Service, huh? He's like, no, I know you all do the protection and counterfeit and stuff. I'm like, he's like, but I kind of felt all the federal agencies are kind of the same. He's like, no, you should check. He shows his credentials. You should check it out. I'm here at the Austin office. I'm like, of course, my first question was, why do you need you have an office here in Austin? He's like, yeah, it's not till later on that you become a Secret Service you understand why you have offices in different geographical locations around the country. And so back then nothing was online. It was like big, print out the PDF, like you do your entire application on the PDF, or you can't, and you had to do it all on one shot. If you can't save it either. Had to finish it. It was
really?
like one of those things where you had to take breaks, and it was print it all out. I remember taking it to the office, in my uniform, and guy looked it over, and then I called in. You do the interview and move on to the So that's as the whole process was said, because I did have to take their Treasury Enforcement exam twice because their math was not like it was called the TEA exam, and they were not even part of the Treasury anymore, part of Homeland Security. But you had a verbal, situational, and then the math. And then the study guide that you had for the math was like, okay, this is, no. I was like, what the hell is this shit? I'm not a math guy. I'm like, so I had to really, you had to make your bread and butter on your verbal and the on the situational judgment questions. And,
I see.
And it was, I actually credit going, I started, when I was when I re-enlisted, I actually was going to the Bush School of Government Public Service and in their Certificate of Advanced International Affairs program. So Mr. James Olson, a friend of mine who was with the Guard, turned me into that. And so my goal was to look into the CIA later on, maybe paramilitary. Looking back now, that probably wouldn't work because I was, had too many skeletons in the closet and things like that from, all my craziness.
Right.
Because yeah, I mean, I credit going back to grad school and reading again to the second time I took that test, I could say, you could go through, skim the paragraph a lot quicker. You could run through it. So by the time it was all said and done, I remember getting the call, and they said, we have 3 choices for you to get hired. We have LA. I was like, no. New York. No, I didn't say no, but I'm like, okay. And Albuquerque. And I was like, Albuquerque. He's like, it's a small office, all right? He's like, yeah, I've been through there as a kid. I go, no, I guess I'm not staying here in Austin. They're like, no. No Dallas, no Houston, no San Antonio, no. I'm like, I'm going to take Albuquerque. He's like, well, do you want to talk to your wife about this first? I mean, well, I'm already taking a demotion. If I'm coming in as a GS7, I'm right now a staff sergeant with this much time in the military. They were going to promote me to sergeant first class, but because I was leaving the military all completely, they declined that. So, but I'm taking a pay cut becoming a GS7. And obviously you make it back up as you go, but I said Albuquerque was the most reasonable because LA and New York would have been expensive. In New York, you're living, in freaking Jersey going across the bridge. In LA, you're good luck.
Right.
I mean, if you're a single guy, yeah, the world's your oyster. If I'm a single guy, I'm going to LA. I'm probably going to chill out at Huntington Beach and shit. Even though I'm not a Cali guy, I'm more of a Cali guy than a New York guy. Well, even though New York has definitely grown on me through the years, and I do enjoy a good New York. But yeah, I remember calling my ex-wife and telling her, and she's like, just because she was like, what? Because she was already not liking Austin.
Oh, yeah.
She thought Austin was too dry. She thought Bob Cole, who's the radio guy, and thought the UT fans were obnoxious idiots. She hated the UT fans. She was like, she hated them. Because she liked Georgia, the Bulldogs, which is funny because she's from Westchester, PA, but she is from, she's inherited the South as her thing. So
The Southeast.
yes, the Southeast. So I said Albuquerque's our best option. So that's how it kind of got started.
And so, what was that like for you? What was the training like? And
so training there, not hard at all. It's the hardest. I mean, actually, the most. If you had not been in law enforcement or had a criminal justice degree, you start first at. First we had to go up to Beltsville, Maryland. So I drove up there because I did a cost comparison waiver. It was better to, so I went up there. We did a PT test and everyone's doing good. And then you kind of meet the other agents that you're with. And then with some, you're kind of like, why the hell was I worried? And with some, you're like, okay, he's a good guy. But then some, you're just like, what the hell? So then you go down to FLETC. And you also learn that we were a very diverse agency. You can't just have I always tell people, if you're going to go federal and you just want paramilitary guys, U.S. Marshal's probably your best bet, or DEA. Primarily U.S. Marshal, because they're going to have the most military guys in there. Secret Service, FBI, you're going to have a very robust group because you also still have to do the financial crimes aspect. And I've met a lot of good guys that did protection that were accountants or attorneys before that too, or bankers.
Really?
So very, very good agents. So then you go down to FLETC, which is Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, and that's 12 weeks, and that's to get your CITP, or Criminal Investigator Training Program, out of the way. And it was us and ICE guys, or HSI, lumped together, fun group. So no big deal, but the test, you definitely had to read into it because of all the legal stuff. There was not just criminal investigations, but legal. Right to see, what to stop, what to check, things of that nature. What statute did it involve, and things like that. So 12 weeks there. Then you have to do your own Secret Service training in Beltsville, Maryland, which is 16 weeks. At least there we were not staying in these dumb dorms. The dorms in FLETC are horrible. They're shit shows. They're horrible. And it hasn't changed one bit because I've had to go back there for my current agency, and they're dumps. It never changes. Food sucks. Everything sucks there. It's like, how could this place not change? So at least with Secret Service, you stay in a suite or a hotel the entire time, and then we were staying in a hotel at Anne Arundel, which is just a little, if I had to do my geography, going towards Baltimore, just a little north of Beltsville, where the training for Secret Services or Laurel. And so that was 16 weeks long. You break it down into your criminal investigation work, protective intelligence, surveillance, and then finally protection at the end. So I graduated from there in February of 2011, and right after that, then you made your way to Albuquerque. So it started there.
So did your wife travel with you during that time?
So when I finished FLETC, my ex-wife had stayed in Austin to work.
Okay.
When I finished FLETC, we actually, during that time, ironically, we had to sell the house, and it was during Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac, so we came out even, which was horrible. And it was a nice home in Round Rock too. That was a bummer. It was a nice home, so we had to sell. I finished up there, and we went back and we closed on the house, so I was able to come back home, and then I put everything in storage. Obviously, everything was already in storage. She moved into an apartment, and then I started training there at Beltsville. But I kept on trying to get her to be like, look, like she wanted to finish off, like she was working at a school as like a secretary and things like that. So she wanted to finish off the school year. And I go, look, once December hits, shut this shit down, like shut it down, shut the apartment down, move you and the 2 dogs that we had, because the hotel could accommodate the 2 dogs and just move in. At first, she was kind of reluctant. She felt like I'd intrude, and then she was like living, because her parents were in Westchester, PA. So originally it was just me and my Labrador, and that was tough. Then she was with her parents who lived there in Westchester with my other little dog. It only lasted about a couple of weeks. I'm like, get down here. I can't. Poor the lab misses you. So, this is tough. So, until December, that's when she came in, and then we took a road trip down to Albuquerque.
Not you, but the lab.
Yeah.
That was the one that missed her.
I missed. Yeah, it was better to have both of us there. It didn't make.
I figured that was a little bit.
It didn't make sense. So and then we settled in Albuquerque and rented a house there. Didn't want to buy there. It was already because buying was a pain in the ass during that time, because she got a job immediately. She was always good at getting jobs. Always good. She'd worked her entire life. But, they were looking at, they want to see a leave-in earnings statement. They want to see what her pay stub is. The mortgage companies were treating you like criminals, man. It was tough. So to say, let's just rent, and we'll see how long, initially thought we'd be there for a bit, but it turned into about, from February 2011 until we had to move to D.C. area, which was Falls Church, Virginia, in July 2017.
So what were you doing in Albuquerque?
So you do 3 types of missions there. You're doing financial investigations on on white collar crime. So you're looking at counterfeit mail fraud, identity theft, and you'll work alongside Albuquerque Police Department with other federal entities such as HSI, U.S. Postal Inspector Service. FBI didn't want to work with them too much because they really hate. Sometimes they were a little pain in the ass to work with. Just because they're always looking for higher threshold, and New Mexico's a poor state. I learned that really quick, that you're going to have to take a lot of things to the state level, and that's why you worked a lot of hand-to-hand with the cops. You did a lot of what is called protective intelligence, which means like those that made threats against president, vice president. At the current time when I joined, it was President Obama, Vice President Biden, but any of the immediate families or formers that had protection. There was a lot of rants against former President Bush because of Iraq, still hot off the burners after he left office in 2008. So you would go out and, I didn't get a minor in chemistry, but I took a lot of organic chemistry classes. And most of the time when you talk to these people that make threats, they're off their meds or they're on meds and stuff like that. They have such bipolar or schizophrenia stuff. So you became a master of oh, he needs his Ritalin. Oh, he ran out of this. Okay, got it. Okay, well, you can't be saying that kind of stuff.
How do they respond?
I know. But this guy, man, he sucks. I'm like, hey, you can't do that. You just can't. Right. Some are better than others. Some make it out to seem like you're gonna walk into some the last stronghold of because of Albuquerque is, you have Belen, because you're not there's one office in Albuquerque. It's the 8th largest state in the union, I believe. It's vast. And you got some areas like Deming, Cloudcroft, Farmington, Gallup, yeah, that are not the most appealing.
Right.
And you got some interesting people out there, some
Right.
colorful characters,
Yes.
some sovereign citizen types. That when you get to the house, and you're like, "Sir, I'm insulted. I thought there was going to be thought you're going to have a 240 Bravo mounted on top of your roof here to go along with your Rottweilers." What the hell? Like, I'm insulted. You made it out. I'm going to take everyone out if they come to me. I got bullets for these guys. Then you talk to the guy, and then you talk to the bullshit artists that say that I was a sniper. I go, where'd you go to? Sniper. Oh, I've been stationed in Germany, huh? With what did you do? Like, oh, you were a mechanic there? Oh, I didn't know any snipers and mechanics.
Mechanic sniper.
I'm like, all right, Casey Ryback. We got Casey Ryback over here. So Ryback's an ex-SEAL, from so those were fun. Those I think some people really avoided them like the plague. Me and my good friend, another agent who's still in D.C., we lived for that shit. We were like, let's go talk. Hey, let's go ambush them at the.
Just because they were weird?
No, because they made the threats.
Right. But I mean, you enjoyed it because
normal people don't do that.
Yeah.
No. I mean, some people may get on Facebook and say, like when someone tried to assassinate Trump back this year, like there was one person I was friends with that, like, on the behalf of all the country, thank you, said something about that with that, and that's immediate block. I'm like, for me, I blocked that person. I'm like,
Right.
dude, I don't want like this. When you're celebrating that kind of action, that some are just very just angry, but most of them will have issues with medical, like psychological.
Right.
Those that do that quick, because what they did not understand is with social media, with Twitters, all these things like that, it's not the friends that report it. It's the secondhand individuals that see these things that report it, contact, then it gets spun up to DC, they call you, and then when I was in Albuquerque, the first question I would ask, like, please tell me this person is not down in Las Cruces. And they're like, what? Like why? Like, because Las Cruces is 4 hours away from Albuquerque.
Right.
That's a drive for me. Oh, you just can't go down there today? I'm like, no, I just can't go down there today because I had to research the individual that made this threat.
Right.
I had to pull every type of resource beginning to see. You basically go down you start investigating. You go through your system of progressions of like who is the person? Just by the social media, what other information can I gather? Names, do they have a criminal record?
Right.
What else are they posting? What do they think? Like who are their relatives? Things like that. Do they then contact the local police department? Are they have record? Have they had a run-in with this person? Is he the local idiot that hangs out at the gas station and just barks? Has a sign that says "Stop the lie," or things like that. Things like those are that. So they did that. Those were two. Then the last one was protection. You did a protective assignments. Anyone that came into the area of New Mexico, whether it be president, vice president, you would work as a counterpart to them, or you would work solely on your own if sons came in. The Secretary of Homeland Security at the time was Janet Napolitano. Her father lived in New Mexico in Albuquerque, so she would come in a lot.
Right.
So you learned a lot how to do these protective assignments, learned how to work on the different details that go with it, and until you got assigned permanently to protection. Is
that the goal as a Secret Service?
Well, my goal when I got to the Secret Service was to go to DC and to become I was never like holding either one to the higher regard, whether you be on the vice president's detail or the president's detail. But you deep down you'd like to be on the president's detail. But I just say, hey man, like whatever happens, and it's just see what happens and goes from there. And so I was when I got to there in July of 2017, I was with Dignitary Protection, which is kind of like your startup before you go to either presidential or vice presidential detail. And so you were working with General Kelly at the time, was the Secretary of Homeland Security, until the current White House Chief of Staff, which I think was Priebus at the time, was fired. And then General Kelly assumed the role of White House Chief of Staff. So then he went and fell under the Presidential Protection Division umbrella, while Elaine Duke assumed the role of Homeland Security, and she lived down in Woodbridge. So picked her up until my time, until I got assigned to President's detail, and that was, I think, in November November 2017. I got assigned to Trump at that time.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
and
And how long did you?
so you go through different phases of the protection. So the first phase with Trump, you work in Trump, you work the shift, you work the bubble, you do advanced work. It's say he's like going to, if he's going to someplace in Nashville or he's going here, you go ahead of time to prep the site, talk, get everything ready for when he comes in. So those are the things that are behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see, and a lot of work that
Right.
goes into that as far as knowing every intricacy and detail regarding what he is visiting, whether it's a building, whether it's a venue, whether it's arena, whether it's a rally and things like that. So we did that, and then I moved over to Ivanka Trump and her family in January of 2018, and I was with her for probably about a year and a half, I would say, over a year until like year and a half, maybe less. So I was with her. We protected Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, her husband, and the three kids. So they had
Right.
three children. So that was a pretty fun experience. That's called you kind of go through your progressions on presidential division, and that was really fun because they went on very, very good trips. Went to saw a lot of nice places, did a lot of great things, experienced a lot of great things. They were a very nice family, so it was really good time.
How often are agents developing relationships with their protectees, and how does that impact?
You want to keep it to a bare minimum. I mean,
I
you
was gonna ask
definitely,
you that.
if they ask for your name, give your name. If you want, obviously you've heard the whole horror stories sometimes about former First Lady Clinton and stuff like that. But my whole argument to that is like, look, we're not there to be their friends. All right, guys,
Right.
we're not there to be like they could be as mean as you like. Just like, do you want some certain courtesies? Yeah, but if they're mean to you, that don't like. Just it is what it is. There's certain things you can't bend to. Like you can't do certain things. Like
Carry their bags.
the only way you carry your bags if you're trying to move from point A to point B as quickly as you can to
I
keep them
see.
out of the open. You look at
I
it from a
see.
security standpoint. I'm like, I got to get them out of the open. Let's put them inside. But that family was very nice. Very, obviously some take it to a little bit more than others. I will not hold that against them. They're good agents and stuff like that. But I kind of try to keep it as if they talk, they try and bring up things, like here and there, like that's fine. I mean, but just try to keep it professional as most of you can.
So, what kind of issues might that create if you develop a relationship with a protectee?
Well, there's been some issues that have happened, unprofessional things. So
Okay.
that
Does it
is,
create blind spots, or
I
in
don't
the
know if it
protection, or is it more of a
well, you don't want
ethical kind of?
It's more ethical, and this
Okay.
and obviously this dates back to Gerald Ford when his daughter married a
I didn't know that.
Secret Service agent. So yeah, that's Gerald Ford's daughter had.
I didn't know that.
So
Interesting. Okay.
you're in close proximity to them. So that's for me. It was always about a professionally is being professional, staying keeping it down. Do some treat you nicer than others? Do you feel like your life is better? Is your life better because of your awareness to like your travel dates and things like that, or last minute things that are thrown on you? Absolutely, you have your candidates and your protectees that you do like, but you ultimately, the mission is still just to keep it, be ambiguity, be right down the middle of it and just go from there. So I look at it as a professional thing. Like, come on, it's guys, there's plenty of other. So Washington D.C. I mean, I know there's a bunch of sharks here. In this, you go to Old Ebbitt's Grill. There's sharks there. You go down to Capitol Hill. There's sharks at this one tavern there. You go down to Cafe Milano. There's sharks down there. So I mean, I know D.C. very well. So I mean, I'm already I'm tossing out names from I just tossed you names from Capitol Hill to Georgetown right there, my friend, and right across from the White House, which is Old Ebbitt's Grill. So, or you can go outside. Just keep. Whatever you have, keep it out of it. I always kind of felt that, but for the most part, most of my guys, most guys I know did. So, or they were happily married, or they were married and stuff like that. So,
Right. And so, how long were you with the Secret Service altogether?
I was with them for close to 13 years. Over
Okay.
13 years, yeah.
And then you have then moved to the DOD.
Yes, Department of Defense, Office of Inspector General right now.
Okay. Now, why that transition from the Secret Service
Well,
to the DOD?
there was, so after my time was up on presidential detail, I mean, there was obviously facets of my life that were happening in regards to my divorce. She was moving to Savannah, and had to sell the home.
Right.
So you sell the home, and obviously you're breaking proceeds and things like that, splitting things up. The question would be like, okay, you could stay, and rent an apartment and just do this thing, or like there's an opening down in Dallas for the Bush School. I mean, I'm sorry, for the Bush detail.
Yeah, the museum there.
Former President Bush had an opening there for his detail.
Okay.
We can take that. We can move back to Dallas, move back to Texas. My dad's health was declining. He was going through some issues. I wanted to spend more time, see family. So, I get down to the Bush detail, and I'm, like I said, I've already said it before, I'm a very outspoken individual. When things were being run the way I thought, like, well, we could do things better, it was kind of seen as a side eye kind of thing. And there was just, and also I felt like my quality of life was not the best. Did I want to stay with Secret Service? Yeah, I tried to compromise and say maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, because I loved being a Secret Service agent. I did like it a lot. I loved it, and but when I felt like there was an opportunity to move on to the Department of Defense, have more flexibility with work, and flexibility to even talk to you today. I mean, Secret Service, I don't even know if I could talk to. I mean, I could, but I'd probably be stuck in his former President Bush is in Maine right now.
Right.
He's in Maine.
Right.
He goes every year. May, he's there all. It was a constant rotation of travel, and for me, not the most exciting travel, if
Right.
you want to say that. I mean,
Sure.
when you're doing Waco and Maine, even
Right.
though the weather's lovely there in Maine at this time of year and it's not hot, but if
You
you're
spent a lot of time in Waco.
yeah, so I spent a lot of time in Waco at Baylor, so I made a decision to do that and to jump into the Department of Defense and do that kind of route. And I'm actually blessed that I was able to do that, because I was able to see my last days of my dad as he passed away in May of 19th of 2024. So when I left the Secret Service in August of 2023, my dad, I was able to go to the dedication of his middle school down there in Alamo, Texas. It was Alamo Middle School. They dedicated it to in my dad's name in November, which was Jesus Vela Jr. Middle School. By that point, he was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Because he was dealing with failure, renal failure and things of that nature. And then I was able to come down for Christmas to have Christmas with him. And that was actually kind of the last times we talked. I mean, we talked on the phone, but then he passed, and it just happened so quickly because, I was very bored with the job, and I was trying to come back to Secret Service, but they didn't offer me anything here in Texas. They offered me only, this was in February of 2024. I mean, like I said, the job, the Department of Defense offered me like flexibility and,
Right.
with schedule and stuff, but it's you're dealing with just fraud. I mean, and you're doing fraud and different types of fraud with product substitution and healthcare fraud and like interviewing companies and contractor companies and healthcare, and you're not moving and shaking. You're not like the travel like the Secret Service, and you're not people not you're not doing that kind of stuff. And that's where I was like, I got the itch to try and go back. And even when I got back, they kind of did that. Well, we only offer you 6 West Coast cities. And I'm like, I'm in Dallas.
Right.
So then I said, no, you kind of need me more than I
Right.
need you. And then obviously we know what happened in July with the assassination of President Trump. So, but that's what I've been doing ever since August of 2023 is working with the DOD. And obviously I was able to come home for my dad's funeral and do all these kind of things. There's a lot of things you look at that you're like, man, there's a lot of things you miss. I mean, with military, with deployments, with training, with leaving, like me being, Secret Service, going here, going there, you're missing holidays, you're missing family, you're missing all these kind of things. You look back at it now, you go home. I was just home. I was home last weekend because we did a dedication, or the weekend before, because we did it was the anniversary of his passing, and we handed out scholarships to a lot of the kids at the Far San Juan Alamo District, early college, high school. a lot of these kids, he did so much with the education there and how we're handing out scholarships that, you see relatives, they're older, your Theos, your Theas, they're in their 80s now. The cousins that were this small are now this big, and you're just time's undefeated. Time doesn't stop.
Right.
Aging doesn't stop. It's undefeated. It hurt. It kind of makes you. It will make you take a step back and say, because my mom's 77 and she's in great health, doing well. And you kind of look, man. Just where did the time go, and did I sacrifice family, for career to live this type of life, to go, to do something no one else had done in my high school, to do something no one else had done in my family, to see the things that I've seen, to know the things that I've seen, to experience that. Did my drive that we talked about in high school, the always working out, the training, the watching game film, even before game film was like, just did that drive into college as well? Did that kind of did it make me sacrifice? I guess there is always sacrifice in life on what you miss and what you don't see, how you don't experience, and how your family, and the next thing they're gone. And that's
Right.
I think that's the only if you're asking about I don't know if it is a regret. It's a reflection. I reflect.
Yes.
I think I more reflect, like, especially when you see the how fragile and old your uncle is now, and how the Theo Kiki, and it's sometimes like, man, and then now you see my aunt in Virginia who lives in Springfield, and her like going through all these medical ailments. It's just you're kind of like, man, you still keep in shape now, and you just kind of. People always say you're going to slow down someday. I'm like, oh, I'll slow down. I mean, when I slow down, I guess.
Right.
I ain't going out. I ain't going down. I ain't going down without a fight. I'm not. That's why I still do all the jiu-jitsu and stuff. I've been doing that for years, and I'm going at younger guys like his age. I'm just like I got to play. I got to play older, man. I guess sometimes got to use brute strength, but man, I got to slow them down 'cause they're quicker. So.
In this, going back to the Secret Service for a minute, was there any incident during your time in the Secret Service that really stands out to you? Anything that you didn't mention?
Oh man, no. I kind of look at it. There's a term one agent used when we got onto President's Detail that is so true to this day. Is like, man, enjoy the ride, I guess, because it goes. It definitely has. I think I'm at 15 years of federal service now.
Right.
Total of 15 years. If you add military time, 23 years of service to the military government, to the country, and it does just go like that. And so nothing ever. I don't know if anything has ever stood out. I mean, obviously, I have my memories of different protectees, individuals,
Sure.
funny things that have happened, things that they've said, things like and instances that obviously I can't say because
Sure.
that's actually the slogan of the Secret Service is "You are worthy of trust and confidence," and I wish more people would learn suit to that. Some have written books, good for them. I mean, on that. I mean, there's certain people that have reported to certain reporters on for the Washington Post and things like that. That's not. But now when I've talked about it, I've always just had nothing but. A question another Ranger buddy of mine that I did a podcast for asked was like would you recommend? Sometimes they're like, would you recommend it? I'm like, look, just as long as you know what you're getting into, you're going to travel a lot, you're going to have a lot of off hours, there's going to be a lot of days where you work, you're not going to see your family. So if you're looking for that kind of life, it's a young man's game. I like to tell them, so. Start off on it young, and if you want to transition to another agency after that because you're tired, definitely do that because you can transition to something like I did to the Department of Defense. But other than that, it was like you're going to see a lot, you're going to know a lot, you're going to do a lot. They'll take you to some crummy places, they'll take you to some cooler places. There's not every day that you could say that you've worked your shift and then immediately you took off and walk the entire streets of London,
right?
And just walk, And I love London. I think that's everyone asks, "What's your favorite city? What's your favorite?" Like London. I go, whoa, why London? You said no hesitation right off the bat. I go, why? Because let's say I go see one thing, Big Ben Parliament, Westminster Abbey, whatever. And what's around the corner? A beer, a pub, a pub. I go get a beer, and no one asks you shit. No one asks you anything about what you do, who's this, bloke or whatever. No, it's just like they're just talking about random things. I mean, obviously, then Rome was beautiful. Like, there's nothing to Rome. You saw everything about the Vatican. You went into the Vatican, looking up into the chapel, seen. Not everyone could say they did that. I mean, Paris, getting a private tour of the Louvre because Ivanka and Jared got a private tour, and you're in the Louvre all by yourself, and you're walking right up to the Mona Lisa. Yeah, no crowd in you. You're just like looking at the Mona Lisa, and you're like, I thought you'd be bigger.
Yeah. That's interesting, right?
And so you're just like, or on top of the Eiffel Tower, and you're looking down into the entire, city and things like that. Or being on in the middle of the Red Sea on a yacht somewhere. I mean, in the middle of the Red Sea. That's Iran. Or Bagram meeting with the Sultan of Bahrain. Getting into deep conversation about military and how I still remember the Sultan. Like that stands out. The Sultan of Bahrain was like, we miss Saddam. We miss Saddam Hussein. They're like, so I go, oh yeah, Saddam brought fear. Now we fear Iran over, because Iran just right there across the seas. They're worried about Iran. Right. I mean, Saddam used to keep Iran in check.
Yes.
You took him out of power, so now the mullahs are just, everyone's just pissed off at each other. And Bahrain gets a lot of, Bahrain is one step lower than Abu Dhabi and stuff. It's beautiful, had a lot of money because they're getting Saudi money because they're predominantly Sunni. While Oman, some people are more. We're not going to take Oman. That's why Oman doesn't like Bahrain about it, because they're getting less. They have not kissed the ring of the prince. But yeah, you see these kind of things. You see, and that's what you miss. That's what you miss about Secret. You miss the trips.
So you're going back.
I am not sure yet. I'm still waiting in the process.
Okay.
Yeah,
So am I breaking news that shouldn't be broken?
Yeah. So the process. I've started the process with it, and they offered me. They approved the San Antonio office. So, but I've kept my options open. I really have. I've kept my options because I have a house here in Dallas. I can stay with people in San Antonio, come back and forth. I even looked at private. I am open to private sector kind of things as well. So because I'm living wise, with VA stuff and stuff like that, you're fine. You're going to do okay. So if an offer came in Dallas from somebody, whether it be security or in the industry, like here in this, or somebody working remote, you do have to break it down into everything. Like, okay, what am I doing for work? What's the salary? But what are my hours? If you're telling me I'm working this, healthcare, I'm fine. As a VA, but there's certain. I've just recently, I think it was before we agreed to do this interview. It's been one thing where I'm like, well, because the Secret Service process is moving slower. I just finished my. Had to submit a background check again. I'm like, guys, I just did this thing. So I'm just wondering what the next steps are,
right?
And when it could start. But and it was kind of like, well, what about staying in Dallas? You can, obviously, with the savings that you've made with the government, you could always roll whatever thrift savings plan you have into whoever company you work with. You could roll it into that or into an IRA. You have about 23 years of service. 15 government, 23 years total. There's a partial pension that comes to that, so you get a partial pension here. Then you'll have your salary. So you got to do. It's a little bit of a numbers game, but like I said, if the opportunity, if somebody would offer an opportunity, and the salary doesn't have to match what I have now. What I'm matching as a GS 13 step 7, it could be like, what about this? Like, you'll be doing this, you'll be working this many hours a week, get to stay in. What is your job? I would definitely entertain it.
Yeah.
I would definitely do that.
So back to your military service, were there any medals or citations that you received that are particularly meaningful to you?
I never looked at it as meaningful or proud. I'd give it all back just to have my friends back. So I'd give it all back just to have Mark and Matt and Brad back, and to hang out with Mark, because we hung out with Mark. That's Mark Anderson. We yeah, we were a very tight knit group. I mean, and we used to go out to Tybee Island, to Doc's Bar, to O'Connell's, and just he used to love Doc's Bar because they had this Jimmy Buffett impersonator guy that he sang pretty damn good. We loved the beach life out there in Savannah. I mean, but for that mission, we were awarded I was awarded a Bronze Star Medal with V Device, and and some of our other guys were awarded. So the highest medals we received were Silver Stars and BSMs with V Devices, and obviously later on, like I mentioned before, with Roberts Ridge, the Medal of Honors were awarded to Slabinski and Chapman, and the talks had opened up about who the Army who we should recommend for an upgrade, and I've always, and a Medal of Honor winner that Pat Payne, who I just ran into recently in March, who gave me the tour of the Medal of Honor Museum. We mentioned too. Who can I talk to on your behalf? I mean, who would you want? I will always bring up, as far as an upgrade, higher distinguished is Captain Self for what he did that day. You could also look at Eric Stebner, Sergeant Stebner as well, and then other guys. But yeah, I mean, the Army, we took kind of the high road on that issue, and so as far as like being like proud of it or anything like that, it is. I'm honored to receive the the award and other awards that I was awarded during that time, which were just that was the highest distinction. But yeah, that's pretty much I would rather have friends back than have any kind of praise or glory or anything like that. So
yeah, that's a good answer. So what was your favorite part of serving?
Oh, camaraderie. Bottom line, camaraderie, and just we were. I mean, just the main fact that we still are close today. We stuck, just that you will not find a tighter group than what we put ourselves through. Not just from sweat, the blood, the bumps, the bruises, the jumps, the late nights, crazy missions, all those hours that people just do not see behind. They'll never get it, never will. But the best, and then the Mondays, man, when we weren't deployed. I never had a bad Monday in my life. Not at one fucking. I said that. This is the second podcast I told it to I never had a bad Monday. Not in my life. I loved going into Monday at 5:30 in the morning to see what buffoonery, dumbfuckery, whatever had happened, what had happened this weekend.
Right.
Because maybe I was out too, and I'm not saying I was. But it was time to talk shit, see what happened, and like, all right, guys, time to run it off. It's detox Monday time. We're running 5 miles. I mean, it's detox. I mean, we're purifying the system here.
I understand.
And it was just that, if we were not deployed during football season, God help us. We used to go to this shithole bar called Sluggers for college football. My goodness, that place was a shithole. And we would crush it, starting with the first. Like, I would work out like a madman in the morning, and I could show up at that bar wearing a cutoff shirt, a ripped up pair of jeans, and my Red Wing boots, and I would be like, I didn't give a shit. I was engaged. What did I care? Right. And like watching whatever the first Big Ten game on, the Big Ten game started at 11 or whatever. You can see the Suckeyes play against Indiana. That's the Buckeyes, by the way. The Suck. And then Sundays. It was this bar called Sorry Charlie's, and I had a good friend of mine, Dan Petrie. We'd go to he was a big Steelers. He's a big Steelers guy, and we drink during the day, especially if you had a 3-day weekend. If you had Monday off, my goodness, God help us all. And there was a karaoke bar down. Like, I tell you, Savannah was the best too. That place was just that city is well endeared to my heart to this day. I love the Southeast. I love Savannah. Couldn't have had a better place to be stationed at. Definitely couldn't.
So what was your lowest point?
Does it have to be in the military or after?
That's really what I'm referring to.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when you got out, when you got out. I mean, when you got out, it's it's either, you're no longer, it's tough when you get out 'cause you don't have the same brotherhood you have when you go into the real world, and you miss it takes, you have to acclimate quickly to society or else it'll eat you up. I mean, you miss the rush, you miss the adrenaline, you miss I mean, I know some people, it's exact opposite. I don't know, you've talked to a lot of people, and somebody says that glorifies, like, there's those that glorified. I have not glorified anything here, and I'm not glorifying anything about, but something like when you're not doing that something you feel lost. And that's kind of that's your lowest point, where you're like, when you're not like, you're not glorifying, but you miss like doing that type of work. You felt like unstoppable or whatever, and because you were with a bunch of guys that as a unit, as a team together, and you'll never find yes, I've worked with good people in Secret Service, and it's a good teamwork environment, but I will say, it's tough to get. You can't get close to what you did there.
Right.
That's for sure. So lowest, but if you want to go back to military, lowest point, obviously when I had that back surgery, that was tough. That was tough. I had, I recovered quickly. I knew exactly, I was a big into fitness, but that was tough when you had to, like, 30 days of convalescent leave, and then being away from the guys, and then kind of having a bullseye by the new sergeant major about, like, like when you're on profile, and
right.
when you're on profile, that means you're on sick, like you're on, you're injured. And that was really, like, that was when I was trying to come back really quick, and but they knew I was trying to come back quick, especially my commanding officer, Captain Sundum, and he was like, and they were like, kind of pace yourself. Like, when he would see me in the Ranger gym doing the elliptical, trying to get ready, he would be like, take it easy, take it easy.
Right.
But you're just trying to get back. I mean, but he rewrote everything. I was back September surgery, October, November. I was back in December. I pushed it too quick because I was trying to clear rooms, and I was really sore. So with the body armor and stuff. So yeah. But I came back.
So you have a low point post-military?
Post-military was obviously, I guess that was the getting out portion.
Just a separating.
Just to separate. And that was tough for a bit. You got to adjust, and you have to. I will always tell guys, like, and I started helping guys out later on too, like with resume. Like, even now, growing, like at 48, you're still like, oh, I got to fix my resume. I got to make it one page. I got to make it look sexy. I got to have a photo here.
Right.
I got to really hone in on just what the important details in, and and then you have guys that you try and help that you're like, well, this resume is too clumpy, or look, man, you can't blame the HR person because you're not putting keywords in. Look, and you also got to, I need you to unfuck yourself here. You don't look presentable. You look at that beard. What are you like? What are you? Just like Grizzly Adams here or what? Shave that. Shave that beard. No, get cleaned up. Can't do anything about all those tattoos on your arms and sleeves. Right. But we'll get you a coat and tie. We don't have to splurge and go to Brooks Brothers or any of the other shit. We can go down the road here to whatever, Macy's. I don't care. I mean, we'll go to, or Belk's. We'll go down to Belk's. That's all in the South. Like the Belk's is in the South. I'll go down to Belk's and get you something there. But we gotta clean yourself up. Right. For this interview. And we got to use these keywords, and we got to watch out for the F-bombs there.
That's more of that coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never ended. So,
is there anything that reminds you of your service, that your military service, that a sound or a smell or a music or anything that just immediately takes you back?
Oh yes, absolutely. Any like 2000s type of rock music from that time frame will always bring me back there. Any kind of crazy dance music, any kind of Nelly kind of thing will always remind me of those little clubs in Savannah. Any type of Pat Green, basically Wave on Wave, which the guys put on my plaque when I left. It says Wave on Wave, because will always take me back to that time. The smell of burning wood will always remind me of Cantiwa and Sear Level C. Any smell of burning wood will always remind me of being back in Afghanistan and things like that. Jet fuel oh, jet fuel. I love the smell of jet fuel. I will always remind me of, I will take it in. It always reminds me of being on the, on the tarmac ready to go for an airborne or air assault mission, like just or back to get onto bird. That will always take me back. Jet fuel will always be like, oh yeah.
Do you
Gunpowder.
let yourself?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I interrupted
No,
you.
go ahead.
Do you let yourself go back?
Oh yeah, I always do. I don't, because it does not. I have no regrets from it. I don't have
Right.
any pain from it.
Right.
No pain, no regrets from it. It was a complete immersion of, I know there were bad things. I know I saw bad things.
Yes.
And I think that's what I brought back about one of my friends having issues. Like, I don't regret anything. I go, I don't regret anything either. I go, he's like, that's not normal. I go, probably not. But there's people that evaluate you for that. And maybe you should go talk to them about that. So you can get, someone could say like, yes, you have a PT.
Right.
Yeah. So you could say yes. So you could go because it's not normal. It's not common. We don't glorify it, but it's the same point. It's like, hey, I don't think about it. It's just a complete immersion of the good of good. For me, I think we call it better times, because we all got to grow up. I don't know if it's about growing up, but you go into different careers and go on a different path, and then things become more complicated in life. You look at job, you look at retirement, people get older, you look at divorce, you look at if you have kids. It was a simpler time, regardless of the semantics of what we went to war for. I mean, if you look back, how we pulled out of Afghanistan, why we went into Iraq, what everything is. If you let the semantics behind it beat you down, it will eat you to your core.
Yes.
And either you can talk about it, be an advocate for it. If you want to do that, have at it. Speak your mind, do your podcast, do your Instagrams and all that. That's fine. That's just not me. I look at it as the best friends that I had, and just an immersion of that combat. But then you become that person. I know we went back for a March 4th reunion. We went back for the March 4th reunion in 2022, and the Rangers were starting to wrap some things up, and Ukraine was heating up.
Right.
So it was like, oh, should we? And like these guys came to the bar. These young Rangers, like I said, they're more lethal, more agile. The capabilities now are endless. I mean, your Ranger Battalion has expanded. The regiment has expanded to things that I've never thought were comparable. They are lethal and deadly. There's no longer this. They're no longer just, we're security for these guys. Or that ended very quickly on March 4th as well. We became more of what our capabilities were, and so they were very complimentary of us, leading the way and being the founding fathers. That they go, it's because of you guys. You guys were the trailblazers. You guys were the guys that said, we need to change this. We need to do that. We need to do this better. We need to put that in an application. They're beating us this way. They're beating our night vision doing this. We got to do this now. We're too slow. We're too cumbersome. Our body armors are too heavy. We're moving with too much gear. We got to go lighter. Like, it's because of you guys. Because then I told them I didn't want you guys, because then you become that old guy. We're like, I don't want you. They want to go to Ukraine, and I'm like, I don't want you to go to Ukraine.
Right.
I don't want you guys, but I understand. I understand your mindset. You feel like you're a weapon unused is a useless weapon. I get it. You're training. You're just like doing all this. Now you want to put in an application. I understand. It's a total look in the mirror. You're like, regardless of what happened in Afghanistan, Iraq, you're like, you're training me. I need to put this to work.
Yes.
Let's put this to work on an actual, adversary or on an objective. And I could see that in their face. And now, of course, we saluted some beers, took some shots, and I was more amazed that this big jacked kid with a Buffalo Sabres jersey had just come back from scuba school. I go, you just finished scuba? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, how the fuck didn't you sink? I mean, you're massive. He's like, yeah, I'm a good swimmer. I'm like, and I could hold my breath a long time. I'm like, obviously. I mean, I've never. Usually, the guys that went to scuba school did not have that body type. Too much muscle, you sink.
Right.
You don't have the lung. It's all about the lungs, the capacity. So, I mean, it was great seeing that, great mentoring them onto that as well, and to see where they've come so far. But I understand exactly what you're coming from as far as like, the semantics behind it, and I definitely don't want them involved with Ukraine. I know we
Right.
pushed into Syria later on, and I you never know who's working behind the shadows. Never know what we're doing in other places. That's their bit. No, that's the guy's business, and obviously
Right.
I'll keep it. We know what we know. I mean, what
Yes.
guys do is, but yeah. So
So are you involved in any veterans organizations?
I need to do that more often. I have spoken. I've done some speeches. Once I left the Secret Service, I've done more, like I said, more flexibility. I spoke at Needville High School for Veterans Day about the importance of veterans, what it meant to me. Most of the general message of what I shared to them was to leave things better than what you left it in your high school life, and that I've taken from my dad. So that's all him, as far as don't leave things the same. Making things better as you go. Then I spoke with their football team right after them, gave them a little pep talk about, kicking ass because Needville High School just got into the playoffs.
Right.
Previously in August, I spoke down. If I could do some more stuff with veterans, it would be more beneficial. I guess it's sometimes just, you just look and see which one would be more worth your, which one you could look at. And so, but I've just spoken. If anyone ever invites me for more speaking engagements, whether it's talking to the damn Boy Scout troop about, like I gave a talk to the Boy Scout one troop about how to plot a point on a map, and just land navigation, or talking to the Girl Scouts about geo tracking. I'm just like, that's not much to it. You sure you just want to learn about that? I mean, basically, I just pop GPS coordinates here, and you just go to where it's pointed to. So
Right. So if you could do it all over again, would you do it?
yes, absolutely. I without hesitation, I would do it all over again.
Same way?
I would not change a single. I would not change a thing. It was meant to be. It definitely. It fit like a glove. It definitely did. It was like some things are just meant to be, and it's tough to find that in this world sometimes.
Yes.
It really is, and sometimes even like I feel like even after that, I feel now in my at this age, the question becomes now, where if you have years you have a certain, I could retire in 5 years from the federal government. Because I'm 48, I could retire at 53, or I'll be 54 probably, because June 7th of 2030 is my date. And then it's like the question always asks, well, what do you want to do now? What do you want to do now? But it's a question now that I'm asking, where would I, how can I continue to serve? Who can I, but you don't want to just be like, you brought up, if you're doing personal security, you're just being a mercenary. I mean, are you just protecting somebody else? How can I serve? How can I be a betterment to, the next generation, to veterans, to this, to coaching, and that's even the thought that came in my head, is like getting, just going into, coaching, but then people say, well, kids nowadays, I don't know, I mean, or, being a strength coach again, or, but that, I would not change anything there, and just looking into I think it's always about looking into the future about well, what is your role, or you always continue to try and find a role and a purpose. And
Yes.
I know there's I do a lot of I walk a lot, and a lot of walking, and that's where you have a lot of brainstorming when you're trying to always think, what is your purpose? Because obviously my current occupation, it's flexible, it's it pays the bills, and there's some reward in trying to find people that are conducting fraud and against the government and healthcare scams and things like that. But is it fulfilling at the end of the day? Are you fulfilled? Right. And that's the thing. What can maybe I could stumble onto next that can be fulfilling?
What impact do you think the service has had on your life?
It going back into that, it's more. It has. I already had discipline going in. I think it's made me more, obviously, well aware, disciplined. And also that motivation is a false thing. There is no such thing as motivation. there's only discipline, because I'm not motivated to work out today. Like, no shit, Sherlock, huh? I'm like, you're not motivated. You're not motivated to get up to go to work. You're not motivated to getting up at 5 something to make your damn bed, to make having your electrolyte drink every morning to get your workouts in, to going to work. That's all just discipline, consistency, and just that's what it's because there's days you're not motivated to work out. But like, that's all the question everyone says. Well, how do you stay motivated to eat so well, or eat the same thing, eat your eggs every morning with avocado and hard, like I just like, and black blueberries. I'm like, it's consistency. It's pounding away. It's just not motivation, because no one ever, there's days you're not motivated to do anything.
That may follow into the next to last question that I have, and that is, what advice do you have for young people who are considering a career in the military?
Know exactly what you're getting into. I said that without hesitation. If you're looking for the military to pay for schooling, GI Bill, maybe the Hazelwood Act after, or things like that, just know that there's a lot of jobs in the military and a lot of branches of service that you can do in the military. So, and then my nephew did that. My nephew listened to me. He won't admit it, but he did, because he was Army National Guard. Now he's Air Force National Guard, and he's used it to his betterment to get his master's and stuff. Because I told him, if you need to know exactly what you want to do, if your heart is not, if your family was, my family, my dad was a Ranger, I'm going to be a Ranger. I'm like, do you really know what you're getting into? Do you know exactly what this entails? The training, what they're doing is to get you prepared to do something and to inflict major damage or fatalities on people. That's what you're trained to do. You're trained to kill. You're trained to win.
Yeah.
At all, and that's what there's other MOSs. In the words of Sergeant Major Nails from SEER School, if there's other, you want to, you all want to be here because y'all here in survival. He said this verbatim. Y'all are here in survival school because you want to be better and you want to learn survival and take what you learn from units. You all are a bunch of hard asses. If you want to be a pussy and go pump gas, go do that in Oregon. And I'm like, I looked at Jesse the Body Andell. I'm like, what the hell does he mean by that? He's like, well, Oregon, you can't pump your gas there. And I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know that shit. I never been to Oregon, until later on, So just know what you're getting into. Like, there's other job specialties in the military that will keep you out of harm's way. There's the Air Force. I always say Air Force has better billets. I mean, it's 3 squares a day. That's nice. They got good showers. You got your own room, probably with marble countertops now. While in the Army, you're this shithole and whatever, and sleeping on the floor. Maybe you have something better now. But the Ranger Regiment is now, the guy. I saw the guys were doing some shoot house stuff the other day, and they actually do bring out nice little hooches and everything to sleep outside the.
Do they? They
suit outside the shoot house. How they have like a nice little sleep. I'm like, what is this? Yeah, and the guy that was training him was a former battalion guy, Chuck P. And he's like, yeah, and if they want to go and get food down at Fort Stewart, somebody makes a chow room for them so they don't have to eat MREs. I'm like, oh my God, the evolution. Wow, think smarter, not harder. So
that's it.
So that's my only rebuttal to that. Is like, know exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah. Anything you'd like to add that we haven't discussed?
Man, I've been yapping with you guys. Has this been one of the longer ones or what?
No, it's
pretty average.
Okay, yeah, pretty average.
Kind of average.
Okay.
A little above, maybe a little longer than most.
Yeah. It was, like I said, appreciate the the time you had on me. I don't know if there's anything else I want to close at. We all. I mean, I always just said, hey, we're all human. We all make mistakes in life. Some mistakes are obviously bigger than others, but don't let your mistakes define you. Continue to drive on and be better. Try and be better than you are yesterday, and don't do something that you can't correct. Like go to jail and stuff like that. So or for convictions or a felony. So.
Probably not going to be in the Secret Service.
No, you're not going to be in the Secret Service. There's a lot, it's life, man. You can move it's interesting how you can go one direction. You go one way, you go right, or you could do one bad thing in high school and it'll set you in a path for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Or you get in with the wrong people and it'll be the rest of your life.
That's the truth.
So.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank
It's been
you.
fascinating.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me here. So I really do.
Thank you.